My best friend died and now I'm rethinking my relationship with my girlfriend. All names have been changed to protect the guilty. Hi, I, 41M, have a daughter, 13F, who is the light of my life. Her mother passed during childbirth. For the past decade I've tried dating, but with disastrous results. A year before my daughter, call her Stephanie, was born my wife, Joy, bought me a border collie pup who I named Flip. Somehow it was Flip who managed to keep me sane the first 2 years after my wife's death. He was my best friend. He guarded Stephanie and protected her, like he was an extra dad. Staff lived Flip so much. Every vacation, every trip she insisted on bringing Flip, and of course that was more than okay with me. Last year I finally struck gold. I met Donna, 39F, who helped fill the void in my life with Joy's passing. She is warm, kind, and intelligent. She took to Stephanie like a champ, and even though SH doesn't like dogs, Flip won her over. Everything was looking up. Donna moved into my house a month ago. Flip developed cancer and I had to take him to the vet to be put down. I'm not ashamed to say I cried almost the entire day. Stephanie too. She's devastated. When I told Donna she said, "Oh well, time to get a cat now so we can both enjoy a pet." WTF. I couldn't believe what I heard. I told her my best friend died and she's so damn dismissive. She replied that it's just an animal, no biggie. My heart shattered all over again. Of course Steph heard the exchange and now doesn't want anything to do with Donna. Won't talk to her. I made up the guest room and told Donna she's sleeping there for a while. She got mad and is now not speaking to me. I'm thinking of breaking up with her because she can't see how much Flip meant to us. She seems unable to see that my emotions are valid. Flip was a dog, but more importantly he was family. She can't see that. Right now I'm heartbroken and exhausted and I want to sleep for a while but I needed to vent here. Thank you Reddit folks for reading. I appreciate you all. Comments. Commenter 1. Why would she want to get a cat with a mindset like this? It's just an animal, no biggie. Says no cat lover ever. She's a fraud. Commenter 2. Yeah, this is shocking. I'm not really a dog person, but I can look at someone mourning their pet and understand what that's like because I've been there. Commenter 3. This is actually the crux of the issue. She lacks empathy, which is a real red flag. It's okay to not be a dog person, but to dismiss OP's feelings so easily is alarming. Has she fooled him into believing she is someone she is not? If I were OP, I would be seriously rethinking this relationship. Commenter 4. This is the truth. My boyfriend doesn't like dogs. I am a crazy animal lady, any animal, and I love it. But I had a very, extra special dog in my life for a while. He passed away suddenly and it was horrific for me to cope with. During the time it happened I was with my ex still. Eventually we broke up and I started dating my current boyfriend. We started dating about a year after my dog passed away. It's now been almost 5 years since he passed away and it can still hit me like a ton of bricks from time to time. I mean, I sometimes just get hit with a huge wave of grief, start sobbing, and basically it still hurts me pretty bad. My boyfriend holds me, lets me talk about my goober, and he doesn't do his usual "I don't like dogs" face mannerisms because he knows that it's pretty serious to me that he's gone. I share pictures and videos of him and my boyfriend says nice things about him. Even though I know internally he's just doing that for me, that matters. He sets aside his feelings because mine are bigger when I talk about my dog. I'd probably become a rabid bitch if he said anything negative about my goober. That dog was part of my damn soul. I will never be the same without him, and my boyfriend respects that he was an important piece of me even though he doesn't get it when it comes to dogs. Commenter 5. My friend was given a kitten to help her cope as her parents went through a horrible divorce. That cat was her confidant and best friend. Unconditional love. Years later she is married and that cat is now 20 years old. Her husband is wonderful and absolutely gets it. Whatever that cat wants, that cat gets. If the cat is in bed on his pillow, then he gets another pillow and squeezes into the bed. Update. Hey, I'm more than stunned by how this thing took off. Thanks to all the well-wishers and those who messaged for their words of support. It means a lot. For those crying fake, I hear you and understand. A lot on Reddit seems to be BS. Thanks to all who thought to reply for both the positive and negative inputs. Went to work for the overnight shift and my partner Tanya, worked with for 4 years, had a present for me, a small chocolate cake shaped like a dog bone and the Flip's name on it. I just about lost it. Tanya is the best and a great coworker. Her husband is a good friend, too. We talked and I showed her the post. She's no fan of Reddit but understands that I needed to vent. After work I picked Steph up from school and we had a long talk in the car. I told her I was going to talk to Donna about how her words hurt us and asked if she wanted to be part of the conversation. She said no, but added that she trusted me to make the correct decision. My kid is awesome. Sat Donna down after she came home and we had a heart-to-heart talk. She grew defensive and almost got up and left, but I told her if we couldn't talk this out there was no future for us. Then I showed her the post. As she read the comments she started to cry. After a few minutes we talked and it came out that she considered Flip to be part of my old life that I had with Joy and that with his passing I could focus on our relationship more. TBH, I almost lost my poop right there but managed to stay calm. Anger is a secondary emotion indicative of deeper trauma, so I kept that in mind during the conversation. I told her that Joy and Flip will always be part of my life, just like Stephanie, and nothing can change that. I said that they are part of me and helped shape the man I am today. If she can't recognize that, understand my pain and feel empathy, then this relationship is doomed. To make a long story short, she's moving out and we are taking a break from each other for a month or two to reflect on our priorities. Not that I need that, I know my priorities, my needs and wants for a relationship. She must decide if it coincides with hers, that's it. It's late and I'm bushed. Not working tomorrow so I am going to help pack Donna's things. Thank you so much for your support, folks. To all those animal lovers out there, always trust your heart and may God bless and keep you. Comments. Commenter 1. I'm sorry I had a feeling it was gonna be like that. But better find it out now before she starts turning that energy onto your daughter and people like this surely do. Commenter 2. Yep. I knew as soon as I read her latest response that she is master manipulator. It was almost a classic Darvo response. Deny gets defensive, attack gets up to leave, reverse victim and offender, starts crying and blames her feelings on Opie, his previous life. I hope Opie does not get back together with her. There's only more of this in store for him. Edited TOADD. I reread the post and the fact that she says she considered Flip to be part of my old life that I had with Joy and that with his passing I could focus on our relationship more shows that she still does not have any empathy. She is more concerned with moving on and erasing his past than she is with his and his daughter's feelings. Huge red flags. Commenter 3. She has shown she will not respect your wife's passing. She was not seeking to add to your love, but to replace what was already there. Stories number 2. I, 45M, found my wife, 44F, trolling and laughing about a murdered child on Reddit. How do I proceed? I'm not too sure how to even go about this but I'll try to explain. Last night I was scrolling through Reddit and came across a thread of an obscure subreddit involving true crime discussion. On the thread they were discussing a murder victim. Then I came across my wife's gamer name which she clearly has used as her Reddit name. I knew she used Reddit, but we haven't shared our account info. This person is definitely her as her post history references some of the niche things she's into, and her gamer username is also very unique. Let me just say, my wife is a loving person in real life. She's a good mother, a hard worker and above all else, she's always been good to me. But what I saw her saying was utterly revolting. She was fat-shaming the murdered child, and even said the world was better off without them. She insinuated that the child was an animal. She even went on to attack the child's mother, also dead, and surviving family. Her post history suggests she's been at this for a long time and she has made near hundreds of comments regarding this dead kid and her mom. I don't know this person. I'm fucking shocked. I've tried to act like I don't know all about this to her, and continue as normal, but I've just got a massive sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach. I feel like I don't even know her. I'm scared of even bringing this up in case it brings up a side of her I can't face. I'm honestly breaking down over it. Please help. I'm using a throwaway for obvious reasons. Notable comments. Commenter 1. If this is real, this may be beyond our pay grade. Imo, talk to a professional first, therapist or psychiatrist. The reason I say that is you want to be prepared, just in case, should this turn out to be both her, and a sign that there's a very dark part of her that she's concealed from you. You can ask said professional how to approach confronting her. I think I'd start by poking through the user's recent history a little, looking for something innocuous. You could then show her that, point out the name, and gauge her reaction. If she says it's her, you then point out the other stuff and go from there. You could simply point out what you saw, of course, and not dig. But she'd likely deny regardless, if she thinks that you'd object to the trolling. Or, you could sit down and ask about how she uses Reddit, what she talks about, etc. See if she'll open up and be honest. Some people do really get their kicks trolling, even if it's what seems like the farthest thing from who they are. They either view people online as less than real, or they crave the anonymity to unleash themselves without consequence. I don't know if it speaks to a serious psychiatric issue or not, hence the recommendation to consult a professional first. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Commenter 2. This is the problem she has. She shows me literally every day. But her online persona is just completely not who she is. And this is the thing I'm struggling with. A part of my mind just wants to say fuck it, don't look into this further, it might be someone else. But I can't stop thinking about it. Reply. We were friends for a long time but together including marriage for 8 years. She is one to usually be straight up, so I don't know if she will try to deflect. In the past she has been quick to apologies when she's wrong. I'm hoping she's humble enough to realize how sick this is. Reply. I don't condone what she did, if it was actually her, but can we take a second and acknowledge that otherwise okay normal people say some really effed up stuff when they detach from reality as they get obsessed with their niche hobby. I've dated otherwise, truly sweet, wonderful men who say absolutely vile things while playing video games. I've watched true crime docs with friends who, in the privacy of their home, make all sorts of weird kinda effed up comments. Not to the extent of OP's wife, I assume. But I think we all remember the vile things the media said about the John Benet Ramsey case and so many others. I live in Moscow, Idaho, which had a quadruple murder in 2022, and the things people have said and assumed on the internet about just random people living their lives unconnected to the case has spawned a literal federal court case. Commenter 3. People into true crime kind of forget that it's actually real. Update. Hi everyone, I want to thank all those that reached out to me and checked in me over the last days. I really appreciated it. I couldn't air this stuff out to friends and family before getting to the bottom of it, so your support and advice is really appreciated. I'm sorry if some of what I say doesn't make sense as I'm on the bottle right now and pretty emotional right now. Update. I screenshotted everything I could find. When she came home from work I sat her down and gave my phone to her and asked her to scroll through the screenshots. I told myself that I'll give her exactly 30 minutes to explain this without interjection from myself. I did this to first gauge her thought process on why she would say and do these things, but also to see if she would defend the screenshots. It didn't go well. She spent 10 minutes trying to find online videos for proof of her theory. She said I was uneducated and that had a narrow view on true crime and have been sucked into mainstream propaganda, and that this murdered family had a lot going on that the public doesn't know. Completely bats hit insane points, of course, but there we go. Not only is the love of my life a troll, she's also a full-blown conspiracy theorist. For the sake of our marriage and our boys. I tried to reason with her but she doubled down. I begged her to delete Reddit and to seek help for these delusions. I even reported her account in hopes Reddit will ban. That was some days ago. As of now I've shed many tears and have drunk myself to an obliteration since. We have gone round and round in circles over this. Despite my post been taken down, she found my previous post and is refusing civil dialogue with me. I made a point that what she wrote about that child and mother is way worse than me turning to Reddit, but she doesn't see it that way. The only single time she's reached out in a civil manner was via email, and she sent me some documents on the murder to change my mind. We usually can talk things out. We have been close to a separation before, but that was over demographic stuff. She wanted to move states and I didn't. I don't know if we can fix such a fundamental difference in morality. I've gone to a friend's for a few days. They have been supportive, and also shocked at what's gone down, but they know my wife well and are sympathetic to the situation. They have hooked me up with an online community that offers support for those dealing with conspiracy theories, which I'm going to join soon. Our extended family has some external drama going on, and I think that has something to do with my wife acting like this. Thankfully my wife and I are on one agreement, to protect the kids from this. Despite all this, she is a good mother and wants what's best for our sons. The kids know something has gone down but not details. I was in two minds of providing an update, largely because it clearly hurt my wife, and this update will probably fuel the fire even more. But fuck it, it makes no difference. There's no coming back from this, even with her acknowledging the harm and damage she has caused. I hope she reads every Reddit comment on how insane all of this is. I hope it gives a lesson to anyone out there. Please check in on what your partner is into for content. I know a lot of the discussion in my previous post was surrounding true crime. I'm not going to get into it, but out of respect for the murdered victims and toll, please don't mention any communities you think are connected to my wife. Don't let it ruin your day like it did my marriage. Thanks Reddit. Bye for now. Stories number 3. On our anniversary, my 27M wife, 27F, and I were intimate, and she said another man's name during sex. He's a mutual friend. I'm at a loss. How do I navigate this? I'm 27M, in a fight with my wife, 27F, after an incident during intimacy. For context, we're high school sweethearts married for 6 years. We have a child, 3M. We've been through a lot together. I love her deeply. Our marriage is in a rough patch. Our quality time as a couple is struggling. We're in counseling. We're working on making time for each other and reaffirming our bond. That's our current focus in counseling, and we're assigned intimacy exercises. Part of these exercises is for us to make a consistent, conscious effort for each other. We had a staycation to celebrate our anniversary while our son spent the weekend at his grandparents'. The trip was largely nice, and we got to better focus on each other, but it took a turn. The night of our anniversary we were cuddling, and it turned into more. My wife initiated. She was really into it and expressive, and then out of nowhere she moaned another man's name who's in our friend group. We stopped immediately. There was no mistaking what she said. She looked stunned before recovering and treating it like a texting typo or something. When I questioned why she'd say another guy's name, let alone one of our friends, she swore it meant nothing and that she was just consumed with what I was doing to her. I couldn't buy it. I don't believe it meant nothing. Not the passionate way she said it. I believe she was fantasizing about him while being with me. She insisted it wasn't like that and was only a slip of the tongue. I asked why his name in particular. First she didn't know, then said maybe because she was replying to his texts earlier in the group chat. When I pushed back, she got defensive. She said I was making something out of nothing and how it didn't need to ruin our anniversary. I told her nothing she was saying was reaching me, and I needed some time. She tried kissing me and initiating again like nothing happened, but I turned her down. The incident put a damper on the rest of the trip. We haven't been intimate since, and any steps we've made forward with our exercises have taken a significant leap back. We're in a cycle of awkward silence even in front of our son or her ignoring the elephant in the room. She's being extra affectionate now, but I can't shake what happened. I never thought twice about their friendship, but now I'm seeing past interactions differently. I love my wife. She and our son mean the world to me. I've been committed to working on our marriage, but I'm at a loss here. I feel my wife isn't being honest and is attempting to rug sweep by pouring on affection. I'm left reconsidering everything. I don't know how to navigate forward. I need outside perspectives. TLDR, on our anniversary, my wife and I were intimate, and she moaned another man's name during sex. The guys in our friend group. She downplayed it and said I was making something out of nothing. Now she's being extra affectionate. I don't believe she's being honest. I'm left reconsidering everything. How do I navigate this? Top comments. Commenter 1, definitely need to save conversations on this for your counseling sessions. I highly recommend using a therapist certified in the Gottman method. Commenter 2, okay, if this happened with my partner, the first place my head would go immediately would be he's having an affair. But, being on the outside, even though an affair is still on my list of possibilities, I don't think affair is the only logical answer. My other logical conclusion isn't very pretty either though, but it's happened that people are fantasizing about someone else. So, she may just have the hots for this dude and thinking of him gets her going, and she was so in her own head picturing him, that she got lost in her own moment and it slipped out. For me, this option would still be grounds for me to take a step back and question a lot. Even thinking of my partner fantasizing about a friend while having sex with me makes me want to throw up, so I 100% can understand why this has messed you up so bad. I don't think any response is going to make you feel better, honestly. It happened and that's going to be a hard one to forget. Man, I wish I had advice, but knowing how it would make me feel, I got nothing I believe will make this feel any better for you. I would absolutely check your phone records to see if they are communicating more than they should be. That would definitely be my first move. Commenter 3, damn, that's rough to hear. Especially, since intimacy is the focus in counseling. Let your counselor know, you're paying for this assistance. See what tools they can provide to help you navigate this. It's a safe place you can vent out and say all this on your mind, even saying you're left reconsidering everything. If anything, it'll be good for both of you to see what comes out here and if you're both willing or not to find a path forward. Update. Thanks to everyone who reached out. I, 27M, couldn't reply to everything, but the outside perspectives helped. A general consensus was that my wife, 27F, and I's issue should be tackled in therapy. I knew that's what I should have done, but I delayed. I was too embarrassed. The thought of bringing up what happened in counseling made it worse, but I knew it needed to be done. My wife didn't initially take kindly to it. She was defensive and accused me of throwing her under the bus. I disagreed. I wouldn't throw her under the bus either. The truth is, we never arranged topics in therapy beforehand. We argued over each other. Our therapist came through as a referee. She called for a timeout for us to recollect and to reflect on the objective being working towards a solution, not going at each other. We were able to actually talk once things cooled down. My wife was asked how she would feel if the roles were reversed. She admitted if I had said another woman's name while we were having sex and on our anniversary, she wouldn't have handled it well at all. She apologized for downplaying my feelings. While I appreciated her acknowledgement, I still thought she wasn't honest about why she said that guy's name. So I pressed. She said she didn't want to hurt me more than she already did. I told her she was hurting me by lying. She confessed that during a stint where we weren't having sex, she had engaged in fantasies to satisfy herself. One of them was of our friend. I knew the stint she was talking about. Intimacy as a whole has been a struggle, but there was a point where we were abstinent sexually. We weren't even sharing a bed at the time. We'd argue, then leave to separate rooms, or our son, 3M, would share the bed with us. I asked how long she's been fantasizing about him. She said off and on. He wasn't a constant fantasy. It wasn't necessarily about him but more about the taboo. She swore that the fantasies meant nothing. That they were just scenarios to get her there and nothing she would ever actually want. It was tough, but I tried hearing her out instead of shutting down. Arguing wasn't getting us anywhere either. I can't relate to her about this. She's always been enough for me during good and bad times. I was always focused on her during intimacy. I told her that while I knew our marriage wasn't perfect, I thought we were getting to a better place, and we were engaging in various forms of intimacy again. She claimed she doesn't indulge the fantasies anymore. I called bull because she did just that on our anniversary of all days. She insisted his name was only a slip of the tongue because she was replying to his texts in the group thread that day. She said she was consumed with what I was doing to her, and in the heat of the moment, his name slipped out. When I asked why she didn't tell me all of this after the incident, she said she felt guilty and afraid for our marriage. She said our marriage was already in a state of recovery, and she didn't want to blow everything up over a stupid mistake. She kept saying she doesn't want him or anyone else, she only wants to be with me, and that's the whole reason why she's fighting for our marriage. The session was a lot. I was mostly quiet after she finished. She asked me to please say something, but all I could say was I needed some time. I'm still sorting through how I feel. I believe she was more truthful, but it's difficult, nor do I see things between her and our friend the same. I would like to work on my marriage. My wife and our son mean the world to me. I want the best solution for everyone involved. Thank you again to everyone. I appreciate the support. TLDR Update 4, on our anniversary, my wife and I were intimate, and she moaned another man's name during sex. The guys in our friend group. She downplayed it and said I was making something out of nothing. Now she's being extra affectionate. I don't believe she's being honest. I'm left reconsidering everything. Top comments. Commenter 1, I think next thing is you need to do is schedule another therapy session and discuss tools for rebuilding trust. At this point, you bring up your trust was shook because she kept trickle-truthing, and how can you know she isn't hiding more from you? That you don't want to distrust her but you don't know how to rebuild. Allow me to be blunt about some uncomfortable truths. Everyone fantasizes. It is if and how we act on our fantasies and if we allow our fantasies to impact our real life that matters. Keep your focus on her behavior, not her fantasies. Trust is similar to reputation, in that once it is broken, it is hard to rebuild. But it can be rebuilt. Trust is always a leap of faith. It is built on little acts of consistent reliable behavior, but at its heart it is a leap of faith. The little voices in your head, OP. The ones going, but what if she is secretly in love with friend? But what if she thinks he is sexier than me? Etc. Yes, those voices. Nothing your wife can say or do will be able to silence those voices. That is a battle for you and you alone. You need to figure out how to self-soothe those voices. Commenter 2, well, that's the problem with trickle-troughing. There's no way to know when she stops trickling, and when she's telling the truth. Commenter 3, check phone logs. Calls or texts to this guy, check for any apps that might be hiding communication. Stories number 4. Aita for telling my parents the people they're marrying won't ever be my parents. My parents got divorced when I, 17M, was 14. The divorce should have come so much sooner. The two of them were a match made in hell, and they made home feel more like I was in the middle of an MMA fight. They were volatile together and had so much toxic stuff going on. Neither one of them was worse than the other. They were equal in being shitty to each other and in being shitty to be around. And by that I mean their moods would be so bad after a fight or after something happened, and I was hesitant to go to either one. Their divorce was sweet relief to me. But it was toxic too. I was expected to pick a side. My mom tried to use being a woman and mom to win me over, saying I didn't know what it was like to be a woman in an abusive marriage. She also said her being my mom meant we had a special bond nobody could understand, and living with her made sense for that reason. My dad tried to pull the "we're both guys" card and your mom gets hysterical card. Neither one was directly physically abusive. Although shit got thrown all the damn time, which is physically abusive in its own way, but they didn't hit each other. Both were equally hysterical. So their arguments didn't win me over and a judge decided 50-50 was the way to go. Of course neither liked it and the judge saw how hysterical they could be, but the judge stood firm on his decision. They both entered new relationships 2 years ago and they're now both engaged to other people. I'll be 18 next month and I already started my exit strategy to move in with my best friend and his family for a while. I have some stuff moved over already. My parents don't know. With their new relationships and weddings coming up in the next year, they've tried to make me a part of the families they're making. Their partners have tried to parent me too. Like sitting me down and talking about stuff they want me to change, etc. This came up because I stay out of the house a lot and they don't like it. I also got used to never saying where I was going because approaching my parents is difficult. I stopped doing chores years ago too. It was a source of conflict between my parents and I just kept my personal space clean and said the houses could burn to the ground for all I care because it was so uncomfortable, and I still feel that way at both of their houses. I still don't feel like either one is home. And I really try not to be in spaces where others could be. But yeah, the partners tried to parent me and insist on things and they wanted me to tell them how I was doing in school and stuff, but I dodged the questions and really didn't listen to either. I was asked to pick up kids or stay with kids a few times too and I don't. My mom's fiancé has like 3 kids, or maybe it's 4, and dad's fiancé has 2. I guess they complained to the parent they're marrying and my parents started fighting over it again and they teamed up sorta to talk about it and how I'm not giving my new family members a chance and how having 4 parents is good. In the middle of trying to sell me on this shit, they started fighting again. That's when I said to stop and they needed to let it go because their partners are not going to be my parents now or ever and I'm too old for this shit. Now there's even more fighting and they're angry at me, and so are their partners who know what I said and feel like I never even gave them a chance to be good parents to me. Stories number 5. Aita for not paying my dad back after he technically owes me tens of thousands. For context, my dad, 60M, cheated on my mom, had another family, and spent the college fund my mom had been saving for me since birth on the other woman. That's actually how my mom figured out he was cheating when I, 29F, was around 15 years old. He was diagnosed as a narcissist and never talked about it with me, never directly apologized. We sort of act like it's never happened. He's not emotionally open. He wants to be close to me, but I have a wall up. Last year, when I was unemployed, he lent me $300. The other day, he called me saying that his wife told him it was actually $800. I sent him the receipt showing it was $300. But honestly, I'm just sitting here like, it's $300, you're my dad, and you technically owe me tens of thousands. Would I be the asshole if I just didn't pay him back? He says a year is too long and I need to learn about responsibility. What should I tell him? Stories number 6. Whipped it to divorce my wife after she said she wanted to send our son to a conversion camp. So, this is a pretty heavy situation, and I'm really confused and disgusted NGL cause I never thought my wife was like this. My wife, 44F, and I, 45M, have been married for 14 years. We have 2 kids, a 16-year-old son, let's call him Noah, and a 12-year-old daughter. We've had our fair share of disagreements over the years OFC, but things have generally been smooth between us. Now for the context, Noah came out as gay about a year ago. It was a surprise, and as hard as it was to accept, I love my kids more than anything and just want their happiness. My wife visibly didn't take it well though. She was upset and seemed to go through a grieving period where she didn't really talk about it. I tried to support Noah in every way I could, telling him that I loved him no matter what, etc. My wife, though, I could tell she wasn't on the same page. She would say things like, this is just a phase, or, he needs help, but I brushed it off as her needing time. Fast forward to last week, and we were having a conversation about Noah's future. Out of nowhere, my wife casually mentions that she's been looking into conversion therapy camps and thinks it might be the right solution. She said that Noah isn't truly gay, that he just hasn't been shown the right path, and that this could fix him. My blood ran cold. I was in shock. I immediately told her I didn't agree and that this was not something I could support. She got upset and said I was enabling Noah's confusion, and that if I really cared about him, I would help him get better. WTF is wrong with her? She was persistent, and no matter how much I tried to explain that conversion therapy is harmful, like I know those kids get abused, raped, and often end up either traumatized or killing themselves, and that I would never send our son to something like that, she wouldn't back down. If I'm being 100% honest, I don't even think I love her anymore. The fact she could be so heartless disgusts me. I know being gay is not easy and people like her just make it even harder. I'm considering staying, only for our daughter's sake, but would it be okay if it means hurting my son? It feels like a betrayal to Noah. I just don't think I can keep living with someone who thinks this is okay. Relevant comments, and OOP's response to them. Commenter 1. Do you really have to ask if you're the asshole for leaving someone who is trying to abuse your child? She wants him to go get sexually, emotionally, and most likely physically abused at one of these places. Maybe get off Reddit and check on your kid to see if he's okay. Reply. I mean, yeah, of course I really want to divorce her, we don't even talk anymore lol, but I know how damn close my daughter is to her mother. But I know at the moment I need to focus on Noah, and hopefully my daughter will be wise enough to understand. Commenter 2, NTA. Please do not send your son to conversion therapy because of your wife's heartlessness. Reply, you don't have to worry about this, I will not do this. I love my son just the way he is. I don't even know how to tell him his mom wants to do that. The kids noticed the tension between us, but I haven't said anything yet. Update, whipped it to divorce my wife after she said she wanted to send our son to a conversion camp. So first of all, I'd like to thank everyone here for all the help and advice I've gotten under my post and in DMS. Sorry if I couldn't answer to everyone, there was just too many fucking people lol. So I posted something about my wife wanting to send my son to a conversion camp 2 days ago. First of all, some people told me to show her videos and documentaries about what happens there, but this argument has been ongoing for more than a week now. I've showed her things and she won't budge. Really bad update if I can be honest, so let's get into it. All of you told me to try to get him out ASAP. All were definitely right, so yesterday I took the day off and went to see an attorney just to get some info about divorce etc. But after what happened, I'm 100% sure I want a divorce ASAP. Yesterday I went to pick Noah at his school, and as many of you suggested, we had a long discussion. I basically told him his mom and I may be getting a divorce because she wants to send him to a conversion camp, but I can't accept that. I've talked with her many times and I told him I'll probably go through with it. He looked really hurt, my heart broke all over again, but was very understanding and thanked me for standing up for him. I pulled him into a tight hug and told him I'll always love him no matter what and that nothing's his fault. At that moment he started crying because he was so glad at least I was on his side. And I'm very pissed, so sorry if I don't make sense, but apparently his mom had been pressuring him for months. She planned dates with girls to try and fix him, and he had to lie by saying he was going at a friend's instead. She was saying he needs help and as much as she loves him he needs to get his condition cured etc. I feel so bad because I've been so oblivious to all that and I've failed to protect him for all that time. How do you make your 16-year-old son go through that? So when we got home yesterday, I can't lie, I was furious and confronted her right there and then. At first she was trying to explain she was doing it for him, but her speech quickly turned to slurs and it was clear she was just ashamed of having a gay son. In the end I told her I went to see an attorney and that learning all that just confirmed that I want a divorce. She got really angry, calling me a delusional disgrace. We argued a lot and at some point Noah tried to separate us, but my wife punched him multiple times. She was saying disgusting things like he is a dirty fag *T and that it's all his fault we're getting divorced because his filth corrupted me. My daughter, who was prob in her room, came to see what all that commotion was about and was rightfully horrified and quickly called 911 when I told her to. Long story short, the cops got there and took her away. She was very reluctant to go because she was not in the wrong and they needed to let her go. I explained everything to my daughter and she doesn't want anything to do with her mom anymore. I'm in the hospital because my STB ex-wife broke my rib while I was restraining her. I should have probably went as soon as the cops took her, but IDC my son was crying. With a black eye and split lip, they are checking for any concussion, and obviously the only thing I cared about was to comfort him because I can't even imagine what it can feel like being beaten by your mom for being gay. I'm planning to file for full custody OFC and my kids don't want to see her ever again anyway. Given all the charges she's facing, I hope she won't stand a chance against me. I just sent a mail to my attorney and I hope the procedures will be fast. I've also thought of getting CPS involved, but I'm not sure they will RLY help. Like, I cannot understand how you can grow so resentful of your own kid because of something they can't control. Even I had pretty strong opinions about it, but as a father it is my role to unconditionally love my kids, and so I learned about the topic and changed my way of seeing the world for him. It took some time grasping it, but I never doubted one sec the love I have for my child. I thought it was the same for my wife. Visibly not. More relevant comments. Commenter 1, wow, so brave. Please make sure she's alright. Seeing that happen would scare her a lot. Reply, she's pretty shaken and confused, but she seems to understand the gravity of her mom's actions. I'm so sad she had to be dragged into this mess as well. Commenter 2, can you pack up your wife's stuff and give it to her, along with a restraining order? Good on you for protecting your son, and for your daughter calling police, but there is no way he can safely be around her ever again. Reply, We've got a house that is under both our names, and he didn't have a prenup. People have been telling me to change the locks and throw her stuff out, but I just don't know if I can do that. If I can't, I'll either go back to my parents with the kids or rent an apartment in the meantime. Update 2, Whipped to divorce my wife after she said she wanted to send our son to a conversion camp. So, a little over 2 weeks ago, I posted about my STB ex-wife putting both my son and me in the hospital because he is gay. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for the support and advice we've received. The kind words were overwhelming. To all the trolls saying this is fake, God knows I wish it was. Maybe I didn't make much sense because I was extremely shaken, so I apologize if that's the case. Now, for the update. It's been difficult ever since, but don't worry, this is not a bad update. First of all, I was able to get an emergency custody order. I'm very, very relieved because many of you warned me about how people can have their kids forcefully taken by those conversion camps, and I'm relieved that she can't do that anymore. I'm still overly anxious and only leave my son alone when he's at school. I've instructed all the teachers to make sure no one but me approaches him. Thank God my boss has been understanding on the matter. I've been granted the exclusive use of our house as well, so I've changed the locks and installed security cameras. Many friends and family members, from my side of course, have been visiting often, to give us both emotional support and safety. Many of you also advised me to document every injury that my son and I sustained. Fortunately my son didn't suffer a concussion, so I took plenty of pictures and gave them to my lawyer, and she has also taken my son's and my daughter's testimony. Given all the charges my wife is facing, child abuse, both physically and emotionally, neglect, endangerment, assault and battery, hate crime and domestic violence. Yeah, it doesn't look very good for her. Our lawyer is confident that I will 100% be granted full custody. She also said that it's likely STB's attorney will recommend that she gives up her parental rights, given the overwhelming evidence against her. Also T's very likely that my son and I, possibly even my daughter if she asks for it, will be granted a restraining order against her. My lawyer has told me CPS involvement will only strengthen my case, as they are thoroughly investigating everything. While we're still waiting to get the court date, I am feeling highly confident and relieved for the first time since all that shit happened. I've gathered tons of overwhelming evidence against the toxin, thanks to that person who came up with that name. I'll keep everyone updated, and thank you again for all the advice and support my kids and I have received. I honestly don't know how I could have gotten through this without all of you. Y'all just saved a family, be proud. Even more relevant comments. Commenter 1, OP, I would also encourage you and your son and daughter to find a good therapist or a therapist for each of you too. What you all have experienced is truly traumatic. Though you all might all be okay now, sometimes it might appear as depression later and it's not, it's PTSD. Not everyone who has gone through anything traumatic will have PTSD, but it's a good thing to rule out. Please also take care of yourself, OP, you need to be 100% for your children. Reply, we've already started therapy, both as a group and individually. I know Noah is having a rough time, but it seems he'll be alright. I'll keep supporting him the best way I can. Update 3, Whipped to divorce my wife after she said she wanted to send our son to a conversion camp. Hi everyone, it's been a while. If you don't remember me, I'm the dad who posted about his wife wanting to send our son to a conversion camp, which escalated to her attacking us, sending us to the hospital. It's been a while since the last update, and I'm sorry to have kept all of you hanging like this. I was honestly too focused on protecting my son to think about it. LOL. So now, on to the update. I'll try to make it fast. I'm exhausted, so I apologize if I don't make a lot of sense. First of all, the divorce. The divorce isn't finalized yet, as my legal team focused on securing custody and protective orders first. Now that's settled, the divorce proceedings will be moving forward. About the custody, she gave up all her parental rights to both Noah and my daughter, which means I have full custody of both. Also, Noah and I thankfully got a restraining order against her. However, for some reason, the judge decided my daughter didn't need one since her mother hadn't physically attacked her. My lawyer was fuming. As if her actions weren't self-explanatory. I don't know what that judge was on, but I sure as hell want it. About the sentencing. As I said, the toxin gave up her parental rights and agreed to a plea deal, which is how we saw the judge so fast, which I believe significantly reduced her sentence. She was found guilty of assault and battery, child abuse, emotional distress, a hate crime, and domestic violence. She was eventually sentenced to 1 year and 10 months in jail, but she could be released early for good behavior as well as 100 of community service when she gets out. This is still crazy though, given she literally broke my ribs and beat the shit out of my son. I believe she should be locked up for much longer. We had so much evidence, medical records, testimonies, CPS At least we'll be away from her for that time. I'm shocked by how fast all this went though. I guess the police doesn't joke about domestic violence against minors. Now on to my son, my daughter, and me too. I've put the three of us in therapy. My daughter quit within a few weeks, saying she didn't need it anymore. However, Noah is still attending, both alone and with me. His mother's behavior left deep scars that, of course, can't be seen but are very much present, and I feel like therapy helps him navigate his own identity and self-acceptance better as well. He begged me to keep this 100% anonymous, which I did, as he is not out yet to most of his friends at school. The few friends who know have been very supportive, though, and there is this boy I think my son likes. Overall, we've gotten so much support, and I couldn't have protected them without all of you. Not only from our friends and family, but mainly from all of you, who gave so much advice, so many reassuring words of love and encouragement. Reddit truly is a wonderful place. We've lost people, of course. As I said, I myself was raised to be homophobic, so, some people from my side of the family cut us off. But most of them still supported us. We lost my wife. It was truly heartbreaking to see who she really is, but we don't need that kind of person in our lives. In exchange, we've got all of you, and we wouldn't be here without you. Right now, my kids are playing Mario Kart at our home, and who knows what could have happened instead if I did not seek help here. I can never thank you all enough for saving my son. I believe this will be my last update. Surely I will update if my crazy ex reappears, or when my son gets married, but in the meantime, this will be it. Thanks again, so much. Stories number 7. My ex-girlfriend ghosted me for 6 months and just texted me out of nowhere, 29M33F. So, the last time I talked to my ex-girlfriend was back in July 2024, right before she left for a trip with her friends. We were just chatting, and I mentioned how it was kinda surprising that one of her friends, who's usually terrified of flying because of plane crash stories, was actually going on this trip. That was literally the last thing I said to her. She stopped responding, blocked me on everything, and completely disappeared. I had no idea what I did wrong. I waited until she got back and even went to her apartment a week later to try and talk, but the guard wouldn't let me in. I reached out to her friends over the next few months, but no one could tell me anything. I didn't want things to end like this, so at the end of December, 5 months later, I sent her an email saying where I'd be for New Year's Eve, hoping she'd show up so we could at least talk. She never came. I felt awful, like I must have really messed up somehow. Fast forward to last month, I met someone new at work. She's really kind, and since I figured my last relationship was clearly over, we started dating. Then today, out of nowhere, my ex-girlfriend texts me, saying we never actually broke up. She said she was just mad because I mentioned the plane crash news before her trip, and she has flight anxiety. According to her, she thought I was cursing her by bringing it up. I had no idea she had anxiety about flying. We've traveled together before, and she never seemed anxious. But now she's back after 6 months, acting like nothing happened, and saying we're still together. I honestly don't even know what to say to her. Stories number 8. Aita for ruining a bachelor party and uninviting myself to the wedding. I married my husband 5 years ago. For his bachelor night his best friends took him out to a restaurant, the three split his cheap meal, drink and one shot. It was pretty underwhelming and only took an hour but we didn't say anything. These guys were 25, lived at home, no bills and all work so they could have done more with the year's notice they had to plan it. 5 years later his best man is getting married and he is best man for him now. My husband spent months trying to organize ideas for a bachelor night but in the end the groom told them he wants exactly this, everyone to bring alcohol to his home to pregame. Then 2 Uber XLs on a Saturday night in the most expensive part of town, for the 8 men to go to a Brazilian steakhouse, $63 per person, then 2 Uber XLs again to a club where they will get 2 bottles of table service, each bottle of 750 ml Sky vodka is $300 before tip because a cute girl brings it out. Then 2 more Uber XLs to the casino where they will rent a room that sleeps 4 people, for 8 men, for $500 night and spend the night gambling. So at this point we're looking at being out 1-2K up front while they get us back, and now he's saying he wants to rent the room Friday night as well. My husband has agreed to everything but the casino hotel as he's out of his party phase and wants to come home, so we wouldn't be going in on it either. This has apparently ruined the entire bachelor party and the groom called us last night to ask why he won't just go along with everything and then accused us of having money issues. Hubby made it clear we're just fine financially but unlike them we own a home, they're all childless and we have 3 kids and a ton of extracurricular. This is how we choose to spend our extra money now. On top of this he still has to rent a suit for a couple hundred and we still need to get a nice wedding gift, so I feel like this financial ask is out of hand. I made a comment the groom heard, while he was guilting my husband over the phone for 1.5 hours that they didn't do anything for him so they should be happy we're going in on any of this absurd request. So for the next 30 minutes the groom attacks me and my relationship with my husband. Example, he claims he didn't do anything for my husband's bachelor because he wasn't sure we were going to make it. I had been with my husband for 5 years at this point. So I went ahead and re-RSVP'd for just my husband to attend and declined for me and the kids. I offered to pick him up so he can drink all night with the guys even. So I've been stewing on this all day at work, so please let me know if we are the a-holes for not going along with this entire multi-day expensive bachelor party and bowing only myself and my kids out of attending the wedding. Stories number 9. I kicked a client out the door because he came in 5 minutes before closing. I work at a copy center, we print documents and photos. At 9:54 p.m., a guy came in to print business cards. First of all, why the fuck is he here 5 minutes before closing time? Second, he came in with something that can't be solved in 5 minutes because A, it's fucking business cards, and B, he started asking a bunch of stupid follow-up questions, meaning he had no idea what he needed. You're probably guessing that business cards are printed and sliced on a machine in large runs. We have a minimum of 50 plus pieces in our production facility, and that it's not done in a regular office with a Xerox machine. Even if it isn't, that's fine, because you'll likely listen politely to my explanation, realize you won't get the results you want now, and go home afterwards. He didn't go home, but continued to ask if it was possible to print on a regular sheet of paper right now. I, knowing the tricks of Xerox, said that no, double-sided printing of business cards will not work. It prints with a shift of a few millimeters, and if you adjust the layout of business cards to this shift, you just be fucking tired of moving this shit by millimeter on the screen, but the result will not be achieved, and the color will definitely not be the same. He continued to insist that he needed these stupid business cards and asked how long it would take me to adjust this layout, to which he received a direct answer: none, I will not be doing it, especially now. But even after that he did not calm down and asked to make him at least one-sided. To make him finally go away, I even printed him a couple of sheets of his business cards on plain paper. I'll clarify, I don't mind getting into a person's situation if they urgently need to do something, to help them even if my working hours are over, but this one came with a blissful smile and a pile of questions, not giving a fuck about the fact that it's not my working hours. What killed me was when he started asking irrelevant questions like, where do you go to college? Again, nothing wrong with small talk, but not at 10 p.m. I realized he's a total jerk, and at this pace, he's going to sit here until he's tongue-tied or ends up starting to hit on me. I asked him if he would take these papers, which he didn't like the color of course, and he said no. So I pointed him to the door with a straight hand and said goodbye. Stories number 10. Aita for wanting my best friend as my best man, even though he cheated on the maid of honor. My best friend, I've known since I was in diapers. We were neighbors throughout HS, went to college together, and shared an apartment our last year there. He's been a brother our whole lives, we're both an only child. We've talked about how we'll be each other's best man for as long as I can remember. I don't really have any friends other than him, I'm not very social. 2 years ago I met the love of my life, fiancé. 1 year into the relationship, friend meets fiancé's best friend, MOH, maid of honor. Friend and MOH start dating. Fiancé and I both agreed that this might cause complications in our relationship if they have problems, but also acknowledged that we couldn't really do anything about it. What were we gonna do, tell them they can't date? They were great together, and MOH found him worth giving up, waiting until marriage. A few months ago, I proposed, and we are set to be married in a little over a month. I asked friend to be my best man. Fiancé asked MOH to be maid of honor. 2 weeks ago, friend went out with some other friends, and ended up drunk and going home with a girl. He confessed this to me the next day, and he felt like absolute shit. I told him he's gotta confess it to MOH. He fucked up and it's only fair to her, and she'll be a lot more understanding if he tells her himself. He agrees this is the right thing to do. MOH is livid, rightfully so. I come home from work and she's at my apartment. She packed a bag and asked fiancé if she could stay with us to get out of her apartment. I'm fine with this, I can understand she's going through a rough time. 1 week ago, MOH decided she can't handle dating anymore, and they break up. She's staying with us until she can find another apartment. Fiancé tells me that there's no way MOH will be able to handle being at the wedding, especially walking down the aisle with friend. I told her that they don't need to walk down together, or do anything together, but I can't tell him he can't be my best man. It would devastate both of us, as well as leaving me without a best man. Fiancé tells me I shouldn't even want to be friends with him anymore, and offers her brother as my best man. She put her foot down on him even being at the wedding. She says that one of them can't be there, and that it's not fair for MOH to both get cheated on, and then also not able to go to the wedding because we chose friend over her. Friend is already devastated that he fucked up his relationship. I hate cheaters, but you don't just turn on your lifelong best friend because he fucked up. I understand that it is very challenging for MOH, but I also feel like since this is my wedding, it should be determined by what me and fiancé want, and that I shouldn't go through my wedding without a best man because of MOH. I also don't think that it should be a choice of one or the other, and that they should both come and be professional and avoid each other. Aita for standing by having him as my best man. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. NAH accept your best man, but not the point. And maid of honor needs to put her shit aside for the day. This is a day about you and fiancé. Do everything you can to separate them, don't have them walk together, don't have them sit near each other. Reply, thank you. I think going to wait a week or so to let things simmer. I am hoping everyone comes to their senses. Commenter 2. Info, you want a cheater at your wedding? Seriously, do you want that level of disrespect in your bride's face? Reply, I want my best friend there. Commenter 3. NAH accept friend. But I do agree it would be unfair to uninvited him. Personally I would keep the wedding as it is, with the exception of obvious stuff like them not walking the aisle together. If either of the two can't put their shit to one side for one day, that's on them. You and your fiancé shouldn't have to pick one or the other or lose a friend over their relationship. Commenter 4. Going against the grain, but yeah, your best friend screwed up big time and the MOH absolutely should not have to walk dance whatever with him. That being said, I think there is still room for him to attend the wedding, and possibly even be a groomsman. However, look at this from your fiancé's perspective. Your best friend is a cheating bastard and you are basically defending him. She is very likely wondering if you are going to cheat. You and fiancé need to have a serious conversation about this and see if you can come up with a compromise. Commenter 5. I disagree. He shouldn't have to ban his lifelong best friend from his wedding because of something that has nothing to do with him. I strongly dislike my husband's best friend but he was still the best man at our wedding because that's not a choice I get to make. Being married doesn't mean you lose autonomy. Update, same pronouns. Close character limit free to ask questions. Supposed to marry months ago, but due to circumstances unrelated to this situation, we have had to push it back until this past weekend. A few days after my post, MOH moved in with a friend who was looking for a roommate. 2 weeks after she was out, I started having friend over to hang out. Fiancé knew that I was doing this, but I never usually tell her when exactly it is. Fiancé came home from work early one day on my day off, while friend was there, having a few drinks with me. This was the first time fiancé had come face to face with friend since their confrontation after the incident. She saw his car, and immediately went up to our room. I followed her up there to ask if it was okay that he was over, and while hesitant, she said it was okay. Asked if she wanted to come down and hang out with us, and she said she was tired, and might come down in bit. I go back, friend asks if he should leave, a bit later, fiancé comes down, grabs a drink, and sits with us. She joined the conversation quickly, although I can feel the awkwardness. After a few drinks, the topic of how MOH is doing comes up. Fiancé says she's doing fine. Fiancé tells friend that she knows he's a good guy, even if he fucked up. She admitted wishing that MOH would look past things to be able to just go on with the wedding ceremony as planned. Fiancé was getting annoyed at the situation, and was somewhat hurt that MOH can't put her personal thoughts aside for her best friend's wedding day. 1 week, fiancé told MOH she has until 3 days before the wedding to decide, or she will select a new one. The time passes, and fiancé chooses her cousin. The day before the wedding, MOH calls fiancé in tears about how bad of a friend she feels like, and asks if it is too late to still be maid of honor. I had my opinions on this, but I recognized it wasn't my place, and fiancé allowed her it. Wedding day came, and MOH called the morning of to tell fiancé she couldn't go through with it. Fiancé was pretty devastated. Luckily, her cousin had gone through rehearsals as maid of honor, and was happy to fill in. The wedding continued, and I had an uneasy feeling MOH was going to show up and make a scene, but thankfully, she didn't. Her parents were there, close to fiancé, but MOH wasn't mentioned. Wife is moving on past MOH, and is done with her shit. I think we can both understand how difficult getting cheated on was, but she was given months to decide on whether to stay as MOH, and she bailed on the day of the wedding. I don't think friend is a shitty person, just made a shitty mistake. But I am glad that this didn't hurt my new marriage. Thanks for all of your advice, support, and criticism. I really think it all helped me grow as a person, and view situations from the perspective of others. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I don't know, I still think your friend is TA and MOH got screwed. From her perspective, she gets cheated on and then her best friend picks the cheater over her for the sake of appearances during the wedding. I think it would have been best if your friend got demoted from best man to a regular groomsman, which would have allowed a little more emotional distance. I just sort of feel really bad for MOH, even though she definitely shouldn't have bailed at the last minute after promising to come. Reply. Thanks for your opinion, I genuinely appreciate it. Commenter 2. If your now wife values her friendship with MOH, which, maybe not, judging from the update, I think it would be worth having a heart-to-heart and apologizing. I am planning a wedding myself so I know how stressful it can be, but is it worth losing a friend that your wife cared so deeply about she made her MOH? I think maybe you guys got so caught up in the details that you kind of treated MOH like a prop leading up to the wedding, and saw her as causing drama, rather than having what appears to be a reasonable emotional response to a tough situation. It's definitely crappy that she bailed at the last minute, no question, but still I think some empathy would go a long way. Good luck. Reply. I definitely don't think it is out of the question. I get how sucky the situation is for MOH, I just think begging to be MOH and then bailing the day of the wedding is pretty detrimental for wife. Maybe they can reconcile, I guess I'll see where time takes it. Thanks again. Commenter 3. I hope MOH moves on for her own sake. She deserves better friends. Commenter 4. Honestly, both you and your wife sound awful and selfish. Your friend did one of the worst things you can do to someone who trusts you and he wasn't demoted. I'd never want friends like you, she's probably better off in the long run without you or your wife. OOP made a final edit. Thanks for your comments guys, they're eye-opening. I think I didn't put enough effort into viewing this from MOH's point of view. I realize we didn't treat her the best, or how she deserved. I think we were just really focused on our own wedding, and while it is one of the most important days of our lives, we were selfish about it, and I hate to say that we may have sacrificed a friend because of it. Stories number 11. Aita for telling my childhood friend I wouldn't court him because I didn't want to have his mother as my MIL. I, 20F, have grown up with my childhood friend, 22M, who we'll call John. John left for the army when he was 18, but despite that we stayed in touch and I even visited him once or twice where he was posted. I used to love John's mother, who we'll call Amy, when I was younger, but when I was 15 I overheard her saying some mean things about me and my siblings behind our backs to John, who she knew I liked at the time. She said some nasty things like I might become a hoe because my birth mother was one. For context, me and my siblings are all adopted as well as all of Amy's kids, or my father told her I don't clean myself, which I know isn't true because my father often complained to her that I showered too often. I like feeling clean and always have, so I might have STDs. Since overhearing these things I couldn't really bring myself to remain as close to her as I was. A few weeks ago John came for a visit and his mother Amy invited my family as well as a few other friends over for dinner. I was pretty excited to see him since I hadn't seen him in over a year. During the visit I needed to take a breather, so I stepped outside to get some fresh air and calm my nerves. John joined me after a while, which was perfectly fine since it allowed me to be able to finally talk to him one-on-one. We mainly just caught up with each other and talking about random things until he asked if he could court me. It took me quite some time to reply, but I did eventually told him that I didn't want to have his mother as my MIL and I didn't want to ruin his relationship with his mother, especially since they're so close. John seemed very disappointed, but he just said okay and changed the subject. I thought that was the end of that, but apparently he told Amy that he was going to ask me out beforehand, and after my family left she had asked how it had gone. John of course answered truthfully and told her I said no, but had also told her what I had said as to why I wouldn't let him court me, and the next morning I woke up to a bunch of mean voicemails and texts from her and a few mutual friends calling me a holy for refusing to court John because I didn't want Amy as my MIL and that I was bitch for not liking Amy even though she's been nothing but kind to me, and so on and so forth. I haven't responded to any of the calls and messages, and frankly I don't know how. I didn't wish to upset anyone, but I do feel my reasons as valid. So Aita for telling my childhood friend I wouldn't court him because I didn't want his mother as my MIL. Update, Aita for telling my childhood friend I wouldn't court him because I didn't want to have his mother as my MIL. Thank you all so much for all the advice. It really helped with making my decision on how to handle the situation. Before I explain what my decision was, I'm going to answer some of the questions I was asked. My family is religious and a bit old-fashioned, I suppose. My parents always told me growing up that dating was more casual and isn't always done with the intention of marriage, while courting was more formal and with the intention of marriage in the long run. John grew up the same way, so to us he was asking if he could get to know me as a potential spouse. I didn't tell anyone but my father what I overheard Amy saying about me, as at the time I didn't want to start problems and ruin relationships. My father did understand why I didn't want to be as close to Amy anymore and never forced the relationship. I might consider changing my mind if I wasn't expected to have a relationship with Amy and more than seeing her every once in a while at family gatherings as long as I wasn't expected to speak with her. Okay, so I did send the screenshots of the messages I was getting to John. He called me and apologized, saying that he never intended for his mother to react that way and that he only told what I had said because he was angry and upset. He did say he wasn't angry at me as he understood my point of view. I did also tell him what I overheard and he didn't deny it, and also told me she often said mean things about others as well, and that apparently she would say nasty things about him and his siblings to others also. Which I figured she said nasty things about others too, but not her own kids. John told me he'd speak with his mother and would also like if we can all sit down and have a talk. I told him I'd think about it. I also sent the screenshots to the other friends that were sending me nasty messages, and most of them have been very quiet since then. My dad is appalled by their behavior as well and hasn't spoken much to any of them. Same goes for my siblings and the friends that are on my side. Stories number 12. I married my wife because I owe her family around $10,000. My time to shine, I guess. So growing up, I was the usual jerk. My dad left me when I was around 6, my mom was an alcoholic and abusive, and I basically was living in a dump with her. Life sucked like shit. The best part was going to school. No, it was not the teachers, they fucking sucked. It was my friends who respected me and accepted me for the jerk I am. I enjoyed socializing with them. They made me day. However, they were bullies. Now, I didn't give a shit about bullying. I knew it happened, but as long as I didn't do it or was the victim, I was fine. In comes this shy, scared, and nervous-looking girl in middle school. My girlfriends began to group up and bully her for almost a couple of weeks. I didn't care, I wasn't going to take part or be the victim. I just wanted to fucking finish school at the time. The bullying continued for the girl. She would cry, hide, and try to stay away from school as long as she could. When my friends locked her into a locker once, I stopped them. I guess she used that opportunity to get to know me. When my friends skipped school, she would come and talk to me or sit near me at lunch. She would share her lunch with me since I had nothing. She helped me with my homework, which I had no idea about. And she began to pay me, which I liked. As time continued to go by, I got my driver's license at 17. The problem was that a car would cost a lot of money and insurance for a young person like myself was a lot. So I asked her parents for the money, saying I will pay them back. I knew they would say no. They should have said no. Everything would be so different if they did. But they said yes, and bought me my very own car. After that moment, I realized that I had to take care of their daughter, at least until I paid them back. I would drive her anywhere, everywhere. We became closer and closer. She was so happy with me and always has a smile on her face when she sees me. It was her that kissed me first, it was her that brought me to her church, it was her that proposed to me, and it was both of us that got married to each other and gave each other our virginity. We've been married for 10 years tomorrow. I still owe her parents for the car and owe my wife all the cash she gave me. I like her, but she loves me so much. I've never cheated on her or ever thought about it. Our lives are perfect, but I wish I could let her know that I don't love her the way she loves me. To conclude, I work a minimum wage job and my wife is a teacher. We don't have kids. She loves me so much, but if I could take it all back, I would. This is my confession. Feel free to ask any questions. Notable comments. I don't know, man. It sounds like you do love her. I mean, you truly love her in the most important ways. You protected her when she needed it. You stuck with her for years through everything. She supported you in your time of need as well, and her family has been very supportive of you, it seems, as well. All of these things are a great foundation for a relationship. Our society has some pretty messed up myths regarding love, that screw up our perceptions. We expect love to be this mystical feeling that is always there, like some movie. Here are some of the most common myths. Myth 1: love is a feeling. If you're not feeling love, then you don't really love your partner. Myth 2: if you have to question whether or not you love your partner, you obviously don't love him/her and it's time to walk away. Myth 3: you should, just know that it's right. If you don't have that feeling of rightness, then it's clearly not right. Myth 4: you should feel head over heels in love, which means butterflies and fireworks. Myth 5: your partner should make you feel alive, whole, and fulfilled. All of these myths screw us up if we buy into them. Sure, there might be some of these things in a relationship, but there is far more to a long-term relationship than any of that. Love is sticking around when your own ego says you don't want to. Love is being there when you really are too tired to be there. Here is an article explaining some of their myths. You were a jerk from an abusive home with an alcoholic mother, and this woman bonded with you and supported you. She was a bullying victim who needed a hero, and you stepped up. Sounds like a great foundation for a relationship if you ask me. I don't know if you could find anything better, to be honest. Remember one, I think that you're saying you don't even think of cheating on her speaks volumes. In every relationship there will always be one person who loves the other more. It's natural and honestly, to be expected. Don't feel guilty for that. Or if you do, pour yourself into being more of you, the man that she loves and makes her happy. Now that that's out, let's explore a possibility. Honestly, it's no wonder your love for her is so much less than hers for you. Love takes a certain vulnerability, and she has it in spades. You are protective of yourself by default for very legitimate reasons. Are you secretly waiting for the other shoe to drop, for her to magically treat you like your abusive mom? Or perhaps you won't let yourself love her because you think she deserves better. Being happy isn't explicitly require money or being worshipped. She probably needs a gruff protector, not a timid, infatuated partner. Maybe the process of getting together with her wasn't a challenge. That's your primal instincts. Evolved beyond that. Perhaps it's time to really analyze why you are so indifferent about your relationship. In the end, if she's happy with you, yes, and you're happy with being with her, you must be on some level. If cheating isn't even an option, that's all that matters too. I'm not going to comment about the relationship or love, as I've never been in a long-term relationship, but I will say money only goes so far, and what you've done for her as it is worth well more than $10,000. 3. You love her. You just have some other mystical concept of love that you don't think you have. Love is something that grows over time if it's nurtured. Be each other's best friend. Be happy for. Update. Today, I took my wife out to lunch for our anniversary. When I saw her cute face, I immediately felt different. This was due to the fact that my thread blew up with lots of advice yesterday night. I want to thank you guys and girls. You know who you are. You made me think of my wife differently today. It was the first time that I actually told her I loved her without forcing myself to say it. At first, I muttered it under my breath and my wife asked what I said. I tried a second time and again, I couldn't speak up. Then I said it loud for the third time. My wife smiled and her face turned all pink. We remained quiet for a little while until she began to ask me about my day. We talked for a little while before we visit her parents. I told her parents that I would start paying them back for the car they had bought me when I was in my teens. They told me not to worry about it, that they were happy that I remember and visit them even though it wasn't their anniversary. We talked for a couple of hours. My wife and I returned home. It was then that I opened Internet Explorer and asked my wife to look at my thread. We sat down together and she read it. She began to cry while reading it and hugged me so tight. The last time I saw her cry was on our wedding night, and it was tears of joy, according to her. I told her that I realized that I was treating her unfairly. I told her I wanted to be more loving towards her. I told her I loved her and she was my life. She told me that I was her life, that I saved her from killing herself, and that without me she wouldn't be happy. At this point, I was crying. My wife is currently sleeping. To conclude, I want to thank you all again for the advice. For the people that told me to pay back my debts and leave her, I have realized that I will stick by my wife till death do us part, like I had promised her 10 years ago. She is my life right now and I don't want to have anyone by my side than her. Good night all. Stories number 13. I, 27M, found an open condom wrapper in my wife's, 29F, and my vacation home. She swears she had nothing to do with it. I'm feeling uncertain in my marriage. How do I move forward? I'm, 27M, dealing with a situation involving my wife, 29F, that's affecting our relationship. We're college sweethearts and 4 years married. We have a daughter, 2F. We've built a life together. I consider her not only my partner but also my best friend. We own a vacation home in the city. It was a gift from my in-laws to my wife after she passed the bar exam on her first try. She comes from a family of lawyers, and they have their own firm. Her joining the fold was a huge deal. The vacation home serves multiple purposes. We sometimes stay there after dates instead of going home. Since it's closer to the firm, my wife sometimes crashes there if she's working late and has an early morning. I work from home. That's been difficult since a neighbor started renovations. The noise also irritates our daughter. So I use the vacation home to finish off a work project and keep our daughter soothed. While I was tidying up, I found an empty condom wrapper in the kitchen trash bin. I didn't find a condom anywhere, only the wrapper. My wife and I don't use condoms. When I questioned her, she claimed she knew nothing about it. She was kinda so blasé with the whole thing. You would have thought I was asking her about a candy wrapper. Then, like a realization, she mentioned how earlier in the week she gave my SAL, 27F, access during a snowstorm so she could travel to work easier. She's dating someone new and might have had them over. My wife apparently told her she could have company over and to make herself at home. I didn't know my SIL stayed at the vacation home, but the story seemed reasonable. So I dropped it. We had my SIL and some other family over for the Super Bowl. I asked her about her stay at the vacation home. I felt comfortable asking without it being weird because we have our own friendship. We hung out before I met my wife. My SIL confirmed she stayed at the vacation home but said she never had anyone over. She was alone, which contradicted my wife's claim. After the party, I told my wife about my convo with her sister. She said my SIL's private over the smallest stuff and probably just didn't want to say. When I kept pushing, she got defensive and said how she had a stressful work week and she didn't need an interrogation in her own home. I said I wasn't interrogating but trying to have a conversation with my wife. If only we have main access to the vacation home, who else would I talk to? She apologized for being short with me and asked for us to start over. She swore she knew nothing about the condom wrapper and believed my SIL wasn't honest. I never had reason to doubt my wife in our entire relationship. We both highly value honesty, but her story isn't completely gelling with me. The only people with recent access were my wife, SIL, and me. I know for a fact the condom wrapper wasn't mine. I don't think my SIL would lie about having someone over, especially if she was given approval, but I have sincere trust in my wife. To question if the condom wrapper traces to her is to entertain infidelity. I don't believe my wife would cheat. There isn't a history. She's always expressed disgust towards cheating. Throughout her childhood, she caught my FIL, 58M, having affairs. She eventually told my MIL, 57F, but she said my MIL elected to ignore it. She feels my in-laws are in a better place but ignore the elephant in the room for the most part. It's not something anyone acknowledges. I want to trust my wife, but I can't shake this incident. I'm feeling lost and uncertain in my marriage. I need an outside perspective. What's the best path forward when you don't know where to go? TLDR, I found an open condom wrapper in my wife's and my vacation home. We don't use condoms. My wife swears she had nothing to do with it and mentioned it could have been my SIL who stayed at the vacation home recently, but my SIL denied ever having anyone over. I don't believe my wife would cheat. She has a disgust for cheating, but her story isn't completely gelling with me. What's the best path forward when you don't know where to go? Stories number 14. Aita for not inviting my sister's fiancé and his kids to our wedding. My fiancé, M, 27, and I, F, 27, are planning a small wedding. We only invited immediate family and close friends so we can afford to pay for the wedding ourselves. We also said that guests can only bring a +1 if they've been dating for at least a year because we can't afford to pay for someone they barely know. Here's the issue. My sister is 25 and started dating John in November. He's 43 and has 2 teenagers. 3 weeks ago, they announced they were engaged. I've tried talking to her a few times about how he's too old for her and how she's way too young to be a stepmom to 2 teens, but she told me to mind my own business and that she loves him. For our wedding, I only invited my sister. She called and asked why John and his kids weren't invited. I told her it's because I barely know them and they haven't even been dating for a year. She said John is family now and that his kids will be my niece and nephews, so it's different. I told her I can't afford to pay for 3 extra guests who are basically strangers to us. Now she's mad and says she won't come either. My parents get where I'm coming from, but they also want my sister at the wedding. My dad even offered to cover the cost of John and the kids. But the thing is, I just don't want them there. I feel uncomfortable inviting people I don't know to my wedding. Am I being a stubborn asshole? P.S. We only have 24 guests in total. She wanna add 3 strangers to it now. Stories number 15. Husband admitted that he's poly. What now? M25F26. For the entire time we've known each other, my husband has said that he is monogamous. No problem with me, since I'm monogamous as well. We've been married for 6 months now, dated for 2 years, and this has never even been a problem I've considered before. Well, today my husband decided to drop the bombshell that he's been polyandrous this whole time. He said that he realized it when he was a teenager. His reasoning for why he kept this from me was that a previous girlfriend had broken up with him over it and he was scared that I would do the same. Did I appreciate this vote of confidence over my commitment to our relationship? Not really. Why did he drop this on me today? No idea. After I calmed down, my husband told me that he didn't feel that I wasn't enough or anything like that. Just that, being with one person felt off, and he didn't want to be tied with just one person forever. At this point I reminded him that he quite literally signed a legal document that tied us together forever, and he didn't have a good answer for that. Even disregarding how insane it feels that he's kept this from me for so long, I have no idea where to go from here. I don't have a problem with people being poly or having open marriages. I've always had the mindset that it wasn't for me, but it wasn't any of my business. Except now it is my business and I really don't want it to be. On one hand, I don't like the idea of my husband having to ignore this part of himself for my sake. Even though he tells me that I am enough for him, I don't know if I should believe him or not. I want him to be happy, but on the other hand, I know that opening up the marriage would make me unhappy. I've been reading other people's experiences and almost everyone says that communicating with each other about the people you're seeing is the healthiest way to do it. But even the idea of my husband telling me about these people he's going out with makes me feel sick. I don't have any interest in seeing other people, so this would only be for his benefit, and would make me feel like shit. I feel like I'm backed into a corner with no good way to go. I don't see any sort of compromise where we're both happy. I want to work this out, but I just don't know how. Is there anyone who's been in a similar situation and has any advice? Any help would be appreciated. Stories number 16. Aita for refusing to sing at my brother's wedding. My 28M brother, 33M, will be getting married in the fall. The two of us are fairly close, more so in the past few years, which is to say that he is not ignorant about past events in my life. Recently, I got invited to dinner by him and his fiancée. The two were very obviously buttering me up to ask me something the whole time before my brother finally told me. So, fiancé, and I have been talking, and we'd really love it if you sang our first dance song, just the one song. I know you don't really sing anymore, but I dug up some old videos of you singing and she loves your voice just as much as I do. This could be your wedding present to us. For background, I used to sing all the time. I formed a band with a bunch of my friends in high school, and we were very minorly successful. We had a YouTube channel with a few hundred subscribers, and there were a handful of people that had their own recordings that were posted to their own pages. In this band was my best friend since 2nd grade, Mason, not real name. Unfortunately, when we were 17, Mason took his own life. Additionally, I was the one who found him. The band dissolved almost immediately, and our YouTube channel and all our own videos were taken down. Since then, I have never sang. Singing without Mason felt wrong, so I didn't. Not in the shower, no karaoke sessions, not at church, never. My brother knew all of this, but I wasn't sure if his fiancée did, so I started off with, "Sorry, I'll have to refuse. You know I don't sing anymore," in the interest of not totally ruining dinner. My brother was annoyed as hell at this. "Come on, it's for my wedding, it's just one song, I'm not asking for much here," and so forth. I continued to politely refuse and left soon after. Shortly after, I start receiving countless calls from my mom, who also knows the reason why and decided to harass me about not singing. "It's your brother's wedding. I think you really should see a therapist about this. We all love your singing voice and it's been 10 years since any of us got to hear it." The two have since decided on a new tactic by saying that my song will be a good way to honor Mason's memory. The point about therapy aside, I've been to lots of it. I'm at peace with my decision to stop singing, Aita for refusing. It's clearly important to them. Edit, to clarify, I have really only ever performed with Mason. The joy I got from performing was not the act of singing itself, but from performing with my best friend. Additional edit. Okay y'all, this is overwhelming. Let me throw a few things in one. I don't know if my future SIL is aware of the full situation or not. I'd like to think she doesn't, but I'd rather not poke that hornet's nest until I have to. Yes, I have been to therapy. Singing is something I did with Mason, well before we started a full band. It very much feels like a part of my life that belongs in the past. As I said in the edit, my joy is not from singing, it's from performing with him. Is that what Mason would have wanted? I don't know. He's not around to ask anymore. The extended family is not blowing up my phone. It's two people, and it's not blowing it up. My mom called repeatedly in one day, and has tried to throw it in a few times since. My brother is mostly giving me the cold shoulder. It's only been a few weeks since this conversation took place. To whomever said, "It's been 10 years, you're not good enough to sing at a wedding, thank you." I genuinely laughed at this. It's a good point too. I'd probably sound like a donkey kicked me in the throat. No, I don't post a lot. This is a throwaway I barely use. Top comments. Commenter 1. NTA. Your mom and brother should see a therapist. As usual, wedding planning turns some people into monsters. Commenter 2. It's your voice and your choice. Your brother, mother and, more than likely your brother's fiancé, know why you no longer sing. Just because it's a wedding doesn't mean you must revisit your trauma. NTA. Commenter 3. OP, reach out to the fiancé privately. Ask her to meet for coffee at a Starbucks or something. Explain to her the reason why you don't sing. If you can do it without re-traumatizing yourself, don't sugarcoat anything. Explain just how traumatic it was. Use a lot of imagery. Talk about how there was your friend, your bandmate, the person who was there every time you sung, dead, and what his body looked like. Don't hold back. Ideally, she'll be looking a little green around the gills when you're done describing your experience. Tell her that every time since then you've even thought of singing, that image is what comes in your head. And if she has any respect for you at all, she will understand that you want the wedding to be a happy thing, and not have thoughts of discovering your dead friend. Furthermore, you hope she can understand this is your decision, and it's not a chapter of your life you're willing to revisit right now. And I say this with full respect. If she doesn't understand and accept that, just stop trying with them. Go to the wedding if you want, or don't. Because brothers are supposed to respect each other, and then not respecting your no answer is totally disrespectful. If family gets ganged in on this, write out every gory detail of the trauma and post it for all of them to read. Whoever reads that and still tries to tell you to sing, just block them out of your life. People like that are not a support system or a positive influence. Your life is better off without them. Update. Okay, if I have to do anything special to update people that commented, update me on the last post, but here we are. This is premature, but since the post I made was more popular than I expected, or wanted, I thought I'd give a small update. Future SIL reached out to me because her washer broke and she wanted to come over and do a quick load of laundry. I wasn't thrilled about this, but I live close enough, I have in unit, and the laundromats in our area are not the safest. I was content to just watch TV silently in my tiny apartment while we waited, but she of course had something to discuss. I thought for sure she'd be the third person to try to convince me, but no. Instead, she told me that she wasn't sure if my brother was giving her the full story. She told me that he used to sing all the time, he was in a band, but he quit when the band broke up. Which is technically true, but come on. I also learned that he had told many of his friends this too, about how he's always trying to convince me to come around and sing for all of them. He had literally never asked before the conversation, but was prone to making comments like, "Boy, it sure sucks you don't sing anymore. I know a lot of people that would want to hear that." So, I very briefly told her about Mason. Just the important bits. That I used to sing with him, then he died, so I don't have any desire to do so anymore. She didn't say anything for a while, but I saw her face go through about a dozen different emotions, and I'm pretty sure she settled on anger. Before she left, she just told me that she's going to tell my brother to get someone else to sing. I got the distinct feeling that it's not going to be a pleasant conversation. So, that's it so far. All quiet. Fingers crossed. Edit from OOP, in comments. Hi y'all, again the response on this have been much larger than anticipated. I just need to get something off my chest and hopefully I don't come across as overly aggressive. Regarding the obnoxious comments saying, is that Mason would want? I don't know, he's not around to ask anymore. The dead tend to not have opinions. I've had over a decade to process this. Via therapy, putting it in all caps this time. But I truly hope the people who comment this don't ever try this approach on someone who just experienced a loss. Regardless of intentions, it is grossly manipulative. And again, for the people in the back, I didn't stop singing because I thought that's what Mason would want or survivor's guilt or because I was actually secretly in love with him. Yes, real DM I received. I stopped because I loved singing with my musical partner, who is now gone. I no longer find the act enjoyable. Top comments. Commenter 1. Go Future SL. At least you have somebody in your corner. And sorry for your loss. Commenter 2. Points to her for being able to pick up on, this can't possibly be the full story, and calmly going to the source. Commenter 3. Your brother is a jerk. I hope she chews his ass out. At least now she understands. And hopefully going forward, she'll have your back and correct him when he says this shit to other people. Stories number 17. My friend mirrors everything I do, and now she's copying my medical condition. I feel like I'm losing my mind and just someone to tell me I'm not crazy. My friend, let's call her Stacy, has always had this strange habit of mimicking me, but recently it's gone from slightly annoying to deeply unsettling. It's like she's trying to become me, and I don't know how to deal with it anymore. 25, F and Stacy, 24, F. Stacy is a fun person to be around. We've been friends for over 5 years now. She comes over and I let her borrow my clothes or give her clothes that I don't want anymore. I don't really like her style, but she lets me borrow her clothes when I want. So I knew she had a tendency to lie, but the lies were harmless, or at least I thought so. We've been friends for almost 5 years now. Sometimes, it felt like she was just joking or trying to make herself seem more interesting. I ignored it, which in hindsight was a mistake. Over time, though, the lies became more frequent, and I started to notice how often they revolved around me. We were fine and our friendship was good, but I started to feel weird about her when my sister messaged me, saying Stacy had been talking behind my back. She was telling people that I kicked her out of my condo and that I had men constantly coming in and out of my place, making her feel unsafe while she was there. Big lie. By the way, here's what actually happened. Stacy had come to my city while I was back in my hometown. She was staying with another friend, but that arrangement fell through. Without asking, she started bringing all her stuff to my place. She didn't book a return flight home and didn't ask if she could stay long-term. My roommate doesn't like Stacy because she's messy, she leaves clothes everywhere and doesn't clean up after herself. The last time she stayed, she overstayed her welcome by a week, and I didn't know when she planned to leave. This time, my roommate was coming back the next day, and I knew she wouldn't want Stacy staying with us. I politely asked Stacy if she could stay somewhere else, explaining the situation. She said it was fine and that she'd stay with another friend. But apparently, she turned around and told that friend all the lies my sister relayed to me. So on to the mirroring. The copying was done over long periods of time. We've been friends for 5 years now, but I only started noticing it about a year ago. So here are some of the instances I felt she was copying me. I told her I was going to manage my parents' business. A week later, she told everyone she was going to manage her parents' business too. Never happened. I said I was moving to the city to finish college. Suddenly, she was telling people she was moving to the same city for college. Never happened. I started looking for styling jobs and internships. A week later, she told me she got a styling job, but it never happened. There were other instances that were small, like I got a new phone and she immediately blurts out she's gonna get a new phone but for free from some guy. Or like that I got a tattoo from this popular tattoo artist and she will immediately say that tattoo artist messaged her for a tattoo session but she was in the hospital so she couldn't go. Things like that. At first, I brushed it off, thinking maybe she just wanted to feel included. But the pattern of claiming to do what I'm doing, without actually following through, kept happening. I've always been someone who works hard and takes pride in being productive. I get that a little mirroring is normal in friendships, but Stacy's behavior felt different. She's someone who doesn't have much direction in life. She hasn't finished high school, has no real plans or passions, and doesn't put effort into learning skills that could lead to a career. I tried to be patient, but things escalated in a way I didn't expect. She copied my medical condition. This was the tipping point. And a situation I have never been in and felt so creeped out about. About a year ago, I had a partial salpingectomy due to an infection in my fallopian tube. It was one of the most painful experiences of my life. My tube ruptured, and the infection spread throughout my body, sepsis I believe it's called. Luckily, I was already in the hospital, so they removed the tube and started me on antibiotics. Even so, my doctor told me I might struggle to have children in the future. It was traumatic, and the recovery process was long and emotional. A few weeks ago, Stacy went to the hospital. I messaged her to ask what happened, but she just sent a selfie of herself in a hospital bed. I was busy with finals at school, so I didn't follow up right away. 2 days later, she messaged me again, saying she was exhausted from being in the hospital for 4 days. I asked what was wrong, and she said she had the same condition I did. I was shocked. She claimed she had a ruptured cyst in her fallopian tube that became infected, almost went into heart failure, and needed a blood transfusion. She said she was supposed to have surgery, but they didn't proceed because of her weak condition. I immediately knew she was lying. If your fallopian tube is infected and ruptured, surgery isn't optional, it's mandatory. I'm not a doctor, but after my experience, I did a lot of research, and what she described just didn't make sense. Now here's the thing, I told people I had a ruptured cyst cause I didn't know how else to explain my condition and not get into the gross details. You say cyst and people don't really ask anymore. Truth is it was a really bad infection that only escalated because of my IUD. The infection grew in my fallopian tube and got so big they thought it was a cyst at first, hence why I decided to just call it a cyst. And I did mention to her that it's a good thing I was in the hospital cause if all that happened and I got sepsis it could cause heart failure. I feel like she only mirrored what I said except tried to make her condition seem worse. Nothing she said made any sense. She was in the hospital, but the reason why she was there sounds like it's all made up. Even on a group call while she was still in the hospital, she was listing medications to herself, almost as if she was trying to convince us it was real. She also later told a story about how she jumped on the hospital bed when her brother came to visit. Who does that after a life-threatening emergency? At this point, I felt insane. 'Cause who lies about something like this? Am I crazy? Is she copying me? Is she really a bad friend? Am I imagining all of it? Reading into it too much? Is it bad if I don't want to be friends with her anymore? She's my friend and I want to help her, but it's hard to approach her if all she does is lie. I want to distance myself from her, but we have mutual friends, and I know she'll spread more lies about me if I pull away. Has anyone else dealt with a friend like this? How do you create distance without creating unnecessary drama? Edit. I want to add that a few hours ago she just posted in her story a screenshot of a course list of subjects that is the same as the course I'm taking right now. She has never shown interest in my course, so this is really weird. I wonder if she's just messing with me at this point. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, holy cow, that was a wild ride. I don't know if it's just me, but that was such a crazy story. Op, have you ever seen the movie Single White Female? That girl is stalker level obsessed with you. And suffering some kind of mental illness or personality disorder. Not only are you not crazy, but you may not even realize the full weight of it because you're giving her so much grace, and may not even be taking it as serious as you should. Do your other friends notice this behavior? How can it not be obvious to everyone if there are so many blatant examples? This is truly so bizarre. OOP, I haven't talked to our mutual friends about the medical condition cause they are all from our hometown and I'm really busy with school. I did mention the other things though. And they were kind of like, oh yeah, she did say that right after you did, but because she moved to a different city, not the city I'm in, they don't see her often either. I haven't seen that movie. But this does give me creepy vibes like a horror movie. I'm trying to be careful with my moves. Funny thing is she just recently posted a story on Instagram, a screenshot of a course syllabus which is the same course I'm taking. So I am so freaked out. I plan to work out of the country, she doesn't know that yet, so I just need to be able to manage her until I GTFO of here. Commenter 2, I've dealt with friends like this, people who just sort of clone vampire you. The best way to deal with them is twofold. Information diet. Stop sharing your information out there for them to leech off, and stop giving them things to use. Don't be in their face about it, just stop putting it out there. They'll notice, and ask, and you just shrug and say, oh, my online presence was getting messy so I am cleaning it up for a bit, just being mindful before college, a new job, my brother's wedding, whatever excuse. Slow ghost. Plan to talk to them about half as often. Then less. Then less. When you do talk to them, get them to talk all about themselves, and other people. So they get their attention ego stroked, and they focus away from you. After about 4 months they move on to other people, to vampire. Don't let them back in. Commenter 3, instead of info diet, give her info joy with all incorrect info. Trick her into making a fool of herself if she continues with this madness, smiley face. Get creative. Commenter 2, this fuels the fire, and increases the interaction. It sounds fun to do, but in reality you just wind up deeper and deeper into the whirlpool of shit over it. Would not recommend. Reply, I like the comment that says pretend I'm going to therapy, I might try that. If I do run into her, but I will be avoiding her for now. Commenter 4, she has a personality disorder and is missing a basic sense of identity. Commonly that's a lifelong struggle. And an anxiety disorder. Her lying is a compulsion. I don't think you'll pierce the problem with confrontation or evidence. With the medical story, it's branching into a factitious disorder. Be careful she doesn't go full Glenn Close, Fatal Attraction or Talented Mr. Ripley on you as this gets outed, or if you attempt to break away. It's unclear the level of desperation that could set in. Commenter 5, there's a term for this, mirroring, not sure, but I think it's a mental health problem. She really needs professional help and support, although good luck on getting her to agree. Sounds creepy AF. I seriously wouldn't stand being in her company anymore. Good luck. Update. Hello everyone, I wanted to thank all the people who had taken the time to read my last post. I'm really grateful for all the advice and for helping reassure me that I wasn't crazy. I had reached out to a lot of my friends during the holidays and told them about what concerns I have with Stacy. This is the first update, by the way. I'll see if I can link the first post for those who haven't read it yet. I don't know where to start, so I'll try to organize my thoughts as much as I can. But honestly, it's a lot worse than I thought it was. I have not ran into her at all when I went back to my hometown. Thank God. When I knew she was back in town, I avoided going out at all. Barely replied to her texts. And obviously told my friends, who were very supportive by the way, that I did not want to be where she was. Luckily we all took a trip out of town that she was recently uninvited to due to her having a lot of issues with the people going. Thankful for that, cause I really did not want to see her. When me and my friend, we'll call him Ryan, took a trip to a different town nearby. We reached out to one of our friends that lived there. We'll call her Danny. Now Danny was really close with Stacy, as in they would hang out almost every day. Everyone knew them to be BFFs, and well, now they are no longer friends. Stacy told me about the falling out situation, and so I wanted to hear Danny's side, and when I tell you it was a whole different story. Stacy made Danny look crazy, insecure, over-emotional and inconsiderate. I was shocked at how different the two stories were. Danny started opening up on how Stacy borrowed money from her for her rent. Kept treating her horribly and pushing her around. I told Danny how I didn't know she was that much of a bitch. I have never seen that side of her at all. Danny replied with, "That's because she's obsessed with you, you don't even know," and that sent chills all over my body. She went on to say how every single time she would be with Stacy she would talk about me. From my hobbies to the issues I have in my life, including dating and very personal things. Stacy would want to dress like me and do whatever it was I was doing. She would buy the same accessories as me, shoes as me. Tell everybody about me. Talk about how me and her are really close. Anytime I would dye my hair she would want the same colors. It made me feel so uncomfortable hearing all of this, knowing I thought this girl was my friend. But at the same time she would apparently belittle me anytime someone would give me a compliment and I wasn't there. She would tell people I smell bad and I have bad hygiene and that I slept with a lot of guys. She would tell people that I get all of my connections from her, when at the same time she was telling Danny that she was only friends with me because she can get connections from me. The contradictions. And Danny added that Stacy does not shower. She doesn't even own her own soap, shampoo or conditioner. I realized then where the comments of me having bad hygiene came from. All of the insults she gives other people really are just reflections on how she is. She sleeps around. She has bad hygiene. She gets her connections from me. She is insecure. These are the insults she would tell people about other people, and honestly now I see the pattern that it's all just her really mirroring insecurities about herself and projecting them to other people. I couldn't say I was shocked, but I definitely was hurt and had chills. And when I asked Danny how long this had been going on for, she replied with, "Since the first time she met Stacy, which was 4 years ago. I can't believe I was friends with Stacy for so long. And I never noticed how sick this person was." She would end up not paying her rent because she would spend all her money buying the same things I had or coming to my city to visit me. Also I kind of figured out her medical condition. She claimed was the same as mine, was an STD, because her frequent guy that she was seeing also went to the hospital and she kind of let it slip to one of our friends that it was because of her infection. I am not shaming her at all. I never cared how she wanted to live her life, but I always tried to remind her to wrap it up, especially if she wanted to see guys like that. Well, hope someone tries to remind her about that now, cause she will not be hearing it from me or hearing from me anymore at all. I feel drained by all of the information I have been getting about her. I guess now that I have seen for myself what she really is, I can hear what other people are saying more clearly. Me and all of my close friends agree that we have all learned from meeting Stacy. I have been too nice and too generous with people, that I allowed myself to be used by someone who I thought was my friend. I mean, she is a flat-out narcissist and I kind of knew it from the moment I met her, but I let it slide. So now I'm more skeptical with people I meet. I honestly hope I never have to see her again. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I thought you said in your first post that you've been friends with Stacy for over 5 years. Reply, I have. I met Stacy in 2018, but we only got close around 2020, but Danny only met her 4 years ago. So I'm not sure how long this has been going and I didn't notice. Commenter 2. Hopefully you know the difference between friend and stalker now. Commenter 3. Block her on everything, don't allow her to visit you. Close that chapter of your life and move on. Stories number 18. My husband made me believe soulmates aren't real. Guy, I lost my virginity. Among our friends we were the perfect couple. After graduating high school, we immediately got married. I got into a good school, but I decided to study with Dave. We got married right after we finished high school. Our parents helped us find an apartment closer to our school. We worked hard. We would often talk about having kids. On our 6th anniversary we decided that we would try for a baby next year. I still remember the day when we were teenagers and cuddling. We already decided what our babies' names would be. During our 7th year of marriage, my mom got sick, so I had to stay with her for a while. I was planning to do something special for our 7th year anniversary. So I left early to surprise him. I went to my bedroom and there I saw my husband fucking another girl in our marital bed. I can never get that image out of my head. My husband saw me and his face turned to pale. I don't know what happened, but I threw up right in the spot. My husband was giving me the usual, "It's not what it looks like, I am sorry. It was a mistake." I locked myself in the bathroom. I somehow mustered my strength and called my friend to pick me up, and just don't listen to Dave. When my friend arrived she charged at Dave. She grabbed some of my things and we left. I was in a catatonic stage at that point. Eventually my parents knew, they supported on whatever decision I would make. Dave's parents however wanted us to be together. There was a huge fight but eventually we settled for divorce. My whole fairy tale fantasy just shattered. I was spiraling into depression. My parents booked me a therapy for 2 years. I was like a living corpse. After that my friend pushed me to go on a date. I did, but no one even came close to Dave. I was searching for Dave in every guy. But they all failed to live up to the expectation. That is when I met my now husband, Jay. Jay was the opposite of Dave. Dave was funny, he would be the life of the party. I remember one time he made me laugh so hard that I fell from my chair. But Jay was not funny like Dave. He would use humor only as clapbacks and if he wants to insult someone. He was also very stoic and closed off, pretty boring to my taste. On our first date, I asked him some questions like what is your favorite movie? He told me he doesn't watch movie. He liked reading. He didn't even ask me a thing. Except for my educational background. He talked mostly about my field of work. But he was not interested in me. We ate dinner in silence. I was 100% sure he will not call me, but 2 days later he did. He asked me out on a second date. I was skeptical of whether or not I should go, but my friend insisted. I gave it another try. Second date went slightly better than first. He talked a bit more, asked few questions. We were taking it slow. He was opening up until the 6th date when he finally hooked up. TMI, it was amazing. I am someone who has a snack after having sex. I was craving for some, so I asked him if I could grab something from his pantry. Even a bread and cheese sandwich will do. He told me to stay there and he went out. I was kinda confused. He came back after 20 minutes with takeout food. It was something I really liked, orange chicken. I asked how he knew. He told me, you told me on our previous date. I melted right there. Dave and I have been together for most of my life, but he never made the effort of going out and get me something. That's when I knew even if he was not my soulmate, I was madly in love with him. We dated for 3 years and got married. I came to know about Jay's family too. His mom and dad were drug addicts who died of overdose. He was homeless for a while but worked his way up. Throughout our marriage I was very, very happy. He was different from Dave because whenever he would see me doing chores he would ask, need help. He helped me through my trauma from Dave by arranging a therapist that specializes in infidelity. He may not be a person of words, but his actions tells me that he loves me. When I was pregnant with our daughter, I would wake him up in the middle of the night to either get me food or rub my feet. He would say, yes, ma'am, and get to work. I love him. Even after 15 years of marriage my love has not stopped. He is still the stoic man I fell in love with. After meeting him I stopped believing in the concept of a soulmate. He was not mine but we somehow make it work. I love you, Jay. Thanks for being there in my life. And anyone who is wondering what happened to Dave, he is getting his 3rd divorce. His mom blames me for his downfall but she refuses to see that her son cheated on his every marriage. Edit, I am sorry if there was any typing mistake. I am typing on my phone and the autocorrect is acting nuts. I tried to turn it off but doesn't work. Notable comments. Commenter 1. Who knows, maybe Jay is your soulmate. He seems to be more ideally suited to you from the beginning than Dave ever was. After reading this, all I can say is fuck Dave, metaphorically, and fuck Jay, literally, in several positions, then have a nice dessert. Commenter 2. I'm glad to hear you are happy, hope you, Jay and your kids have many, many more happy years ahead of you. Commenter 3. I wish the term soulmate didn't exist. It's complete bullshit. Relationships are built on a lot of different things, and one person is not going to fulfill every single need of another person. It's not reality, and no matter how many bad Lifetime movies are made telling women their soulmate is out there, it's not true. It's time to stop perpetuating this myth. If you are lucky to find a partner who respects and cares for you but also irritates you and makes you mad, that person could be the person for you. There is no magic person out there where everything is perfect 100% of the time, and I'm happy for you. Posting 2. My husband, 47M, and I, 46F, have been together for 18 years and married for 15. My husband is not the type who always shows his feelings. He is very stoic, smiles on very few occasions and maintains a routine. Some even say that he is a robot. But I don't think so. I am someone who is very outgoing and completely the opposite of him. Before I was married to him, I was married to someone else who cheated on me. I used to say, I love you, a lot in my first marriage, but after my divorce, I had some sort of aversion to those words. Over the last 18 years, we have said, I love you, only 5 times. First time was when we were dating, second was on our wedding day, third and fourth when our daughter and son was born, fifth was 5 years ago on Christmas when we were really tipsy because of the drinks. I wrote a post about how I met him and how we got together, but it made me realize that we haven't said, "I love you," to each other for a long time. But it didn't bother me. Even if he never said it, he always shows that he loves me in his actions. He does chores for me, he would always give me a foot massage, make me my favorite dish, even kiss me out of the blue. I do not have any complaints. He is the best husband anyone could ever ask for, but this was something that has been in the back of my mind for a while. We cuddle, we hang out, we make love, but still no, "I love you." I would love to hear it and say it more often, but somehow it just makes me nervous. I decided to buckle up and just say it. It's just 3 words. So yesterday when he was reading a book on the couch, I stood in front of him and said, "I love you." He looked at me and was confused. I repeated it for the first time. I could see him get flustered. He told me, "Okay." I was a little disappointed by his response. I thought he just didn't love me anymore. Later that night when I was lying down, he came to our bedroom and told me that he is sorry for his response. That it caught him off guard. He told me that he loves me a lot and not even a day goes by he doesn't feel lucky to have me in his life. I was tearing up. That was better than my confession. I asked him that why don't we say that often. He told me that he doesn't say it because throughout his entire life no one has said it to him except for me. His parents were drug addicts who cared less for him. He had to start working since 14. He grew up in hardships, so saying, "I love you," are weird for him, but also he feels like we didn't have to tell each other when we express it with our actions way more. I told him I want to say it more now and want him to say it back if that's okay with him. I saw him smile for a while. He said it is fine as long as I want it. I don't think we need to say it when we know we love each other a lot. We will probably stop saying it after a few days and go back to our mundane events lol. Posting 3. A lot of you people have been asking me and personally messaging me about Jay's upbringing and how he managed to survive. Well, I am not sure if I am the right person to talk about his personal life. I mean, I heard some parts which really made me cry. Therefore, I will try to summarize it. So, my husband Jay is an only child. His mom and dad were from a poor family. They were drug addicts. His household was a mess. He remembers his father pushing him down the stairs when he was like 8. Jay mostly grew up with his grandfather, his mom's dad. As far as I know, his mom was not allowed to come to his grandfather's house. Jay mostly spent his weekdays at his house. His mom and dad didn't care. They were always high and have odd visitors. His grandfather taught him a lot of things. Like handling tools, woodwork, electric repair stuff. Ever since he was little, with some advice from his grandfather, he learned that his parents are very useless. He has to survive on his own. All they know is how to drugs and invite people for having group sex. He started doing odd jobs like dog sitting, car and window washing, gardening. He also tutored from time to time. Shortly after, his parents died of overdose. He became a permanent resident of his grandfather's house. He worked so that he could afford to go to college. His grandfather had little money for him. But it wasn't enough. He thought about joining the army at 18, but he failed the physical test. When he was 17, his grandfather died of heart attack. His grandfather lived in a rented house, so Jay couldn't live there anymore. He was forced to live in a homeless shelter throughout his high school. He even got bullied and got in trouble for standing up for his bullies. But since he was a good student, he didn't face serious repercussion. He left the homeless shelter when a pastor from their local church took him in. He knew Jay because he worked in the church for a while. The pastor was a nice guy. He funded his living and also helped him get a scholarship to a good university. Jay studied finance and business. His entire childhood, he lived in poverty. So, he was obsessed with learning how to make money. He made some connections which landed him a good part-time job during his final year. I met Jay through my friend. She worked in the same company as him. He worked as an investment banker at that time. And the rest you all know. This is pretty much it. I understand why he is so stoic and doesn't show his emotions. I once asked out of curiosity that he saw the harsh reality of life, but still, how does he manage to stay good? He once told me about this couple whose children he used to tutor. They were a really happy family in his eyes. The husband loved his wife. He mentioned that the husband would always have a hand on his wife's body as a form of affection. Their children were also well behaved and had a good childhood. From that moment he knew he wanted a family like that. Because he never had a complete family, but he was sure that somebody would not be able to love him because he doesn't know how to show love. Throughout his entire childhood he has only seen his parents fight and cheat on each other in front of each other. That really destroyed his perception of love. If it wasn't for that couple, he probably wouldn't believe that there are people in this world who can love each other for life. It is a little wrong of me to say he displays no emotions. He does, but on rare occasions. I remember the day our daughter was born. Jay held her and cried loudly. He kept repeating, "I will protect you. I never leave you." He did say, "I love you," to both me and her. Same thing happened when our son was born. Sometimes, it just makes me cry knowing that he has been through a lot and I have lived such a sheltered life. Sometimes, I feel like I don't deserve him because he is very kind and a good person. Also, yeah, we do say, "I love you" a lot more now. Posting 4. I am 46F and have a mom bod. My mother suggested I should start a diet. I agree, over the years my body has changed. I used to be petite and very thin. I started gaining weight after the birth of my children. I go for jogging every morning. I am fit. I have a little stomach pouch. My body has changed a lot. I have stretch marks. My husband never complained about my body. He still seems to be attracted to me despite changes. But is it something that bothers men? Edit, people who have commented, I appreciate your feedback. No, I didn't post this to get validation. I just needed an honest opinion. I think most of you guys are right. It only matters what my husband thinks. I did ask my husband and he thinks my body is fine. He says I am more softer and cuddlier than before. LOL. It doesn't matter what my mom or anyone else thinks. Also stop asking me for my pics. That is disturbing. Notable comments. Commenter 1. My wife is in her mid-40s and doesn't have the body she did in our 20s, but she's still the hottest thing in the world to me. She's self-conscious about how she looks, but quite frankly, I don't care. She's awesome and I love every part, the belly pouch, the stretch marks, everything. Society tells you what sexy looks like, but honestly, they have no freaking clue what us married men want. Commenter 2. Thumbs up for mom bods 100% surf 884. Sounds like you are more than age appropriate and healthy. Husband thinks you're hot. Then who cares? At 46, if you don't have a few war wounds you aren't doing it right. My wife is super uncomfortable with her body, that is her hang up, and that's cool, but man, I love every wrinkle and extra ounce. Commenter 3. My hair is thinning, mine too doll, I don't care. Posting 5. Editor's note, I added paragraph breaks. I just wanted to give big thanks to everyone for who has been kind and supportive. I cannot imagine that so many people will come through because of my post. A lot of you suggested therapy. TBH I did in the past, but my husband brushed it off by saying his past rarely bothers him. Thanks to people in Reddit, I suggested him some articles on PTSD and childhood trauma. He studied for a bit and found a therapist for him to help him with his trauma. He only had 2 sessions till now. Few days ago he came home from work and I went to greet him like usual. He pulled in for a big hug and started sobbing. I told him it's okay. We went to our bedroom where we sat down and talked. He told me that he was sorry for being so ice cold all these years. He opened up more and said he was afraid to confront his demons, so he just kept them back in his head. He had trouble expressing how he felt. He felt guilty that he didn't say he loves more often. I am just paraphrasing what he told me. I love you with all my heart. I know I don't say it, but I feel it every day and every moment. I am sorry for taking away all those years from you, for not expressing my love for you. Words cannot express what you actually mean to me. You gave me my kids, made my house a home. I never had that growing up. I always wanted that and you made it happen. I am sorry that I was so cold and never said I love you more. Because I do. I love you a lot. I want to make it up to you. I don't want to waste another second of my life burying those emotions anymore. It feels good to see him vulnerable first time in his life. I cried with him that night. We talked a lot about our marriage and the times we spent. It was a real bonding experience. From that day on he has been really attentive towards me. He would always come home as early as possible to simply have more time with me. We cuddle a lot and also make love. Except this time it feels new and different. Like a newfound love. He has been saying I love you to my kids. My son is confused and my daughter just said, Dad, you are weird. He is thinking about planning a trip for just 2 of us because it has been really long since we had went on a trip alone. So thanks Reddit. You gave me a new version of my husband and probably strengthened my marriage with him. Not that there was problems, but I hope my husband would not be so haunted by his demons now. Stories number 19. Aita for crying and yelling because I slept in and my birthday plans got cancelled. I turned 16 at the start of February. My parents and I, didn't do anything on the day of because we were going to do something else later. My schoolmates did more for me than my parents have. I wanted to go to this one restaurant and invite my best friend, my aunt and uncle, and my cousin who is like a sister to me. That's literally all I wanted. But between bad weather and then Super Bowl, every time I've tried to bring it up and plan a day, my parents kept telling me we couldn't do it that day or that we had to wait until the day of to invite anyone so we'd know what the weather would bring. That also meant I wasn't allowed to, invite anyone except my aunt and uncle, as my parents insisted they'd be the only ones who could drop everything and get ready in time with such short notice. It was supposed to be today. I was supposed to be able to wake up, watch the weather, text my aunt and uncle and we'd go to lunch. But instead I slept through my alarms, all of them, and my parents let me sleep in until 11:30, pretending like it's some huge gift they gave me. It's not. It isn't fair. They never let me sleep in, they drag me out of bed at 7 a.m. at the latest even on weekends, and the one day I very clearly wanted to be awake before 10 a.m., when I had 5 different alarms set, they go against years of habit and decide to let me sleep in. And then when I asked about the plans, Dad said in a snarky tone, well, if we were going to do anything it would have been a lunch, and the snow will be starting in a few hours. We could have done something at any point before now, but no, they're sitting on their asses on their couch not giving a shit that they've ignored my birthday for weeks, run roughshod over any attempts I wanted to plan, and fucking ruined the one day we could have done it. I started crying so I went to the bathroom and it took too long for me to calm down so I was in there long enough. Mom asked why I was taking so long. When I answered she heard my voice and got upset with me, so she came in and told me that I was throwing a tantrum because I ruined my own birthday by not being able to wake up on time. My mom used to brag that she made sure I slept through the night as a baby by vacuuming under my crib and leaving me alone to cry myself out for hours at a time without checking in on me. She would brag how she could have set a bomb off and I wouldn't wake up. I have always struggled with waking up. As a result, the only way I can get up in time for school is either to go to bed really early, like 7 p.m., that doesn't mesh well with school and sports, or have a bunch of very loud alarm clocks across the room and immediately take an icy shower. I've tried to sleep train myself before but I don't sleep well during the nights and my parents say that if I tried harder I would be fine, so there is no need for a sleep study. They aren't going to take me to a test for the doctor to tell me I need to have better sleep hygiene, ignoring how I've tried for years to sleep right but keep struggling. I yelled at her to get out and leave me alone and that they knew how important this was to me but I don't matter anything to them now. I'm in my room crying, still waiting for her and Dad to decide my punishment. It's been almost a full hour still. I just feel so stupid for getting my hopes up at any point or not realizing how my birthday plans were never going to actually happen. Stories number 20. Sorry but today our house is not the house. For reference, me 45M, wife 44F, kids, 12YB, 10YG, 6YBG twins, are always the host of our kids' friends group. Our 12Y son plays club soccer, AAU basketball so often the worlds merge like today for his birthday. I myself grew up one of 4 boys, so I'm fully aware of a rambunctious full household. We always overstock snacks and food knowing we usually have 4+ kids in our house with friends coming over, ride shares, and overnights. Typically I don't care, actually love the extra company. Both my sons' and daughters' friends are respectful and a pleasure to be around. But I'm starting to wonder if our openness is being taken advantage of. As I mentioned, today is our 12 years old birthday. A friend, who is here often usually without planning, already slept over last night to attend the party. Okay, cool, no problem. Well, this morning, my wife wakes up with a fever and our twins are both chucking buckets. My wife and the twins stay home from the party, which was at a different location, and devastated her. While at the party, the parents of the friend who had slept over the previous night asked if he could sleep at our house again tonight. This was never a part of the plan. I responded immediately no, and explained the situation with people being sick. I can see they read the text, but no response from parents. After the party I drive friend to his house, and sure enough he's locked out, nobody home. I bring him to our house texting the parents they need to come get their kid again, read, no response. It's been 2 hours now, and according to the kid's parents FB, they're at a brewery. I'm livid. Aita to tell these parents we're not their babysitter and to come get their kid? I feel bad because he's a good kid and friends with my son, but if a sick wife and unpredictable puking twins ain't a line in the sand, I don't know what is. Relevant top comments. OOP shouldn't take it out on the kid, but give the parents a talk. Reply, yeah, we're fully aware now there might be issues at home, especially considering the given circumstances. Commenter 1, this is how a good friendship can die. You start having the kids less and less because of the terrible parents. NTA. Reply, this is actually what I want to avoid, but I feel as they get older, the kid is an only child, it's going to get worse. OOP should have take the kid to his parents at the brewery. Reply, as much as I wanted to do this, my family's sickness became a point where I wasn't comfortable leaving them alone. Commenter 2, that is when you send them a text that they have 20 minutes to get there, or your next call is to the police for child abandonment. Then, after 20 minutes, you call the police. If that ends the friendship, well, that is too bad. Commenter 3, comment on their Facebook post, hey, we told you this morning when you asked that your child could not stay over again tonight because our family is sick. Come get him right now. Public shame can go a long way. Commenter 4, there's a reason why that kid is a regular unexpected guest at your house. Whatever you do, document everything. Saved messages, screenshots, notes, whatever. I suspect that record will come in useful to someone at some point. Editor's note, update. Wow. First of all, thanks for all the respectful comments and feedback. A lot of people asked for updates and I wasn't quite sure how to do so here it is. After reading some of the comments, I felt like calling CPS or the police was a nuclear option that would ultimately lead to negative long-term consequences to both the friend and my son. He's a good kid, keeping him here and safe is not a burden. Nor do I think he parents are chronically neglectful. My response to the parents was basically reiterating all your comments. Although I didn't lay out a specific time period, or third-party involvement, I did make it very clear future engagements would be severely restricted going forward if the disrespect, from parents not kid, continued. I was apologized to in person several times when they showed up. An excuse was coming, and I quickly interrupted stating, I like your kid, he's a good kid, don't take us away from him. That must have struck a nerve with mom because I could see her fighting a tear. Hopefully that sinks in and we can go forward from this. Again, thank you all. Relevant comments. OOP might have been a safe haven for the kid. Reply, being thought of as a safe haven for other kids, is probably the greatest achievement I'll get, thank you, smiley face. Stories number 21. I, 25F, really like a guy, 25M, from a university seminar. We haven't had much contact outside of class and I am really unsure if I should ask him out. What would you do think if you were me? So, basically this semester I, 25F, took an elective class at the university. The first day of class I saw this guy, 25M, let's call him Tom, and thought he was really cute, but we didn't talk at all for a while and I didn't think much about it. This was end of summer last year. Around the same time I met another guy and we began casually seeing each other. This other guy seemed lovely at first and I liked him, but after some time he became very distant and I decided to end it early December. All in all I dated this other guy for about 4 months. It was never serious and except for a very short period at the beginning I never thought he would be someone I would be seeing for the long term. One day during those 4 months, Tom told me in class that he had seen me on a square near my house that morning. Turns out he lives really close by. That morning I had left my house with the other guy, so Tom 100% saw me and the other guy together, although he only mentioned seeing me, not him. Since Tom and I were not really close, I didn't explain who he was and we just left it at that. It's been 2 months since things ended with the other guy, and by chance Tom and I ended up sitting at the same table along with 2 other guys and it has been so much fun. I have developed a full-on crush on him because we have interacted more and are friendly with each other before and during class. The semester is ending next week and I think I will ask him out. I am just extremely nervous. On the one hand, I do think there's a vibe there and I think I've caught him looking at me a couple times. He also seems very interested when I talk and asks questions about me. On the other hand, he always leaves class in a hurry at the end of each lesson and I haven't been able to talk to him outside of class almost at all. I also texted him with some dumb excuse about the class and he was nice but didn't really try to continue a conversation at all. Could it be that he thinks I have a BF because of what he saw? Or that he's just an awful texter grinning face with sweat? Or is he just being nice when we are in class together? I would love to hear a guy's perspective on how he's acting and if maybe I'm reading too much into everything. And also from girls it would be great to know if you've ever asked a guy out on a first date and how did that go. Comments. Commenter 1. Ask him if he's seeing anyone first, then ask him out. I've asked guys out, some said yes and some said no. It goes well either way. There's only one way to find out if he's interested in you. Reddit won't give you the answers. Reply, I agree, I'm just nervous about the whole thing and unnecessarily looking for reassurance that I should go for it. Commenter 2. Well, you can look at it this way, the more times you ask guys out the less nervous you'll get each time. Go for it. Update. So in the end I never asked him out, even though I was gonna, because I randomly met his girlfriend. Apparently they got together about a month ago. I still spent like 2 hours talking with him and another guy from the class, and now we have a WhatsApp group and agreed to also meet during the semester break. He's a lovely guy and we get along really well, but I am not in any way, shape or form going to try anything now that I know he is with someone. I am obviously a little disappointed and wondering if maybe things would have been different if I had asked him out at the beginning of the semester, but hey, it is what it is, you win some you lose some. We did agree to take the continuation of this elective class again next semester, so I guess we're friends, which is nice. Unfortunately no great love story will come out of this little anecdote, but I guess now I learned to just shoot my shot if I like someone. What's the worst that could happen? Stories number 22. Aita for telling my uncle his wife is ruining his relationship with his kids and makes me wish he'd give up custody to my grandparents. I, 16F, was taken in my maternal bio uncle, John and his first wife, my Aunt Becky, 10 years ago. My mom and uncle are siblings and when my parents' drug addiction became obvious my uncle and aunt got full legal custody of me and became my guardians. I was never adopted though. I have cousins who are 14, 12 and 11. Aunt Becky died 6 years ago. We had no idea she was sick but it turns out she had a heart condition that was missed all those years. 2 of my cousins were later diagnosed with it also. My uncle started dating his second wife 4 years ago and they got married 3 years ago. My uncle's new wife has not been warmly accepted by us. On my side she's way too judgmental of Aunt Becky and way too pushy. She sat me down a few weeks after they were married and said she heard Becky had never offered to let me call her mom and she wanted me to know she would be clear from day one that she would welcome that and even encourage me to call her and John mom and dad. I said no thanks and that Aunt Becky had known that wasn't something I wished to do, that I knew them as my aunt and uncle and that worked for us. She told me 6-year-olds need parents. I asked why that was on Becky and not John and she told me I'd realized that moms usually handle that stuff for a reason. She has brought up me calling her and John my parents and my mom and dad once a week, at least, since then. She has implied Becky never really loved or wanted me and just tolerated my existence because Becky never tried to make me call her mom. My uncle and his wife said once they got married we had to honor and celebrate her on Mother's Day and the day was going to focus around her like it had for Becky when she was alive. My cousins acted up and said they didn't want to. They offered a compromise for the next Sunday which is Stepmother's Day but my uncle and his wife said it wasn't good enough and the new wife was acting as the mom of the family now. In retaliation my cousins acted up every year and even spat in the cards my uncle bought for her. They also refused to wish her a happy Mother's Day. She also took photos of Becky out of mom frames and added her own photos to them. Then she switched out photos in frames that say our family with ones that include her. She had to Photoshop those photos since my cousins refused to be in photos with my uncle's wife. They called her their stepmom at first but once the Mother's Day incident happened the first year they only say their dad's wife. They call her by her first name to her face though. It bothers her so my uncle has tried to make everyone compromise but my cousins said they never would and they are going to keep making her feel left out and unwanted because she is and they hate her. My uncle's wife has sat all 4 of us down and said we're her kids and she wants us to have a good relationship. We argue over it. She isn't even afraid to imply about Becky not loving me in front of my cousins. Which has made them fight her too about it. My cousins don't trust John anymore and they feel like he betrays Becky with all this shit. I don't disagree. I hate that he lets his wife blame Becky for me seeing him as my uncle still. I have told him he should stop that shit in his tracks because I hate it. He said she's just trying to feel like a part of the family. I told him before that if he lets all this happen he won't have a family. My cousins and John's wife had a fight on Wednesday and it got pretty bad. They told his wife that they don't want her and they reject her and all this stuff and her feelings don't matter to them. She was upset and said she only wants to do good by us and they told her she doesn't compare to their mom and they'd be happy if she was gone. John stepped in and my cousins told him they didn't want to speak to him and they're so tired of him. After a couple of days they were still giving him the silent treatment and so he talked to me and wanted me to help him get things on track so we can be a family. I told him I couldn't help him even if I wanted to, but I don't. I said I don't like his wife enough to want to make that work and that it's up to him but he's going to ruin his relationship with his kids forever if he keeps it up. I told him I honestly wish he'd let me live with my grandparents, his parents, because right now his house is a bomb waiting to go off. He told me he expected more gratitude after they took me in. I told him he's allowed the woman who was a huge part of taking me in and caring for me through the worst time in my life to be dragged through the mud and that if my loyalty was to go somewhere then it would be to her even though she's dead. He told me that hurt because we'd been close. I said yeah. But I told him he chose a shitty second wife and if he wants her so bad he has to accept he won't have the rest of us eventually. Stories number 23. Ex's immediate family will not see our son because I moved on after he cheated on me. So my ex cheated on me during the last leg of my pregnancy and afterwards, and he broke up with me to be with his second AP when our son was barely 2 weeks old. I moved on and am now married to my husband, and my ex is incarcerated for being stupid, but he still calls to talk to his son, which I applaud him for doing so because most men wouldn't. None of my ex's family besides his grandma and brother have bothered to do anything to be a part of our son's life, and I thought it was because I live in a different city, but no. My ex called his mom last night and she told him that the reason why they don't want to be involved with our son is because of the fact I moved on with my life. According to my ex's mom, I should have waited for my ex to get out of jail because I have his son not move on, and that's why they don't want anything to do with him now. I'm so lost on what to do here, as I have a strained relationship with my own family, and now I fear my son won't even have a relationship with his paternal family apart from his uncle and great-grandma. Any advice? Stories number 24. Aita, help. Is my 32-years-old sister reacting irrationally to a simple miscommunication, or did I actually say something to warrant her to yell that I caused an awful FCKN start to her pregnancy? I, F20, received 5 FaceTime calls all during my college classes, one of which was in the middle of my class presentation. My talking points were on my Mac. I text my sister, 32F, dude, I'm in school, please stop FaceTiming. I FaceTime her when I get home and she says, I'm pregnant, with no expression on her face. I say, oh my gosh, are you excited? No response. She then says, I was so excited to share the news, West PPL close to us until I told you, and I got the rudest response. I explained that I was in school and wasn't even thinking when I sent that message, and also that I hadn't had any idea what she was FaceTiming about, so it couldn't have been a rude response. She says, sorry I interrupted your life, and hangs up. I text her explaining a play-by-play of what happened and that I had no ill intent when I sent the message, and that I was sorry it came off as rude because it was never supposed to. She calls me yelling that I refuse to take responsibility, she would never treat someone with such disrespect, that I'm rude to everyone in our family, that I have caused an awful fucking start to her pregnancy, that her husband has been consoling her all night because my rude response had been eating her up inside. She's yelling so loud that my nephew wakes up and starts crying, and she says, great, now my baby's crying, maybe because you're literally yelling. I text her saying, if you as a now mother of 2 can't deal with this simple miscommunication in a mature way, then that's simply a shame, because it is like you are having a burning bridges level adverse reaction to a simply miscommunication. She calls yelling, how dare you say such despicable things about me as a mother. Please tell me I am not going crazy and that my tiny text message should not have caused her to have an awful fucking start to my pregnancy on me. Stories number 25. AITH for flipping my daughter's boundary back on her. Some background: my hubby and I have been married for 21 years. Retired now. We had a major issue that came to a head 8 years ago. We decided it was best not to live together. We're still there for each other, still date, still call each other husband and wife, still celebrate our anniversary. We just live a half-mile apart. My hubby and I are used to popping in on each other whenever we want. Yes, we text call first. So last fall my youngest daughter, in her 30s, and Sil moved in with hubby. It was and is the best for them. They pay no bills, saving for a house down payment, that's what her dad prefers. Before Christmas I had gone over to visit. We were all in the living room visiting. For some reason daughter got really snarky. We were just chit-chatting, her, me and hubby. I asked why she was acting that way. She retorted, I don't like you coming over here. I was like, WTF. Yes, words were exchanged, names called on both sides. I walked out, slammed out I should say. I asked hubby later why he didn't say anything. He said he didn't know what was going on till we were both yelling. We talked about how I felt he disrespected me. He agreed that if he had heard the arguing before he would have said something to her. I did a couple weeks later apologize for the names. But not for the way I left. I was specific. I told her I was sorry for the names, I shouldn't have said them. But also said I was not sorry for reacting to the way she popped that out in my husband's house. No, she did not apologize for her name calling. She said nothing at all. This is where I feel I was right and wrong at the same time. I told her I would be coming over when I wanted to see my husband, but I would not be acknowledging her or speaking to her. I told her if she didn't like it, she could go to her room or leave. But it wasn't her house, and I would be coming to see my husband. Sil has told me he isn't going to get in the middle. We still speak. Yes, she knows. Since then I have kept my boundary and I have visited my husband but not spoke to her. It has been very hard for me. I raised her and her older sister till I married my husband when she was almost 14 to her. He is dad. And he feels the same way. Her bio dad and her have not spoken since she was 21 years old. To be honest, I do tend to walk on eggshells when around her. Because I never know when tone of voice, subject matter, difference of opinion will set her off. She has been diagnosed BP and refuses to medicate. Which is her choice. But it makes it very difficult to know what mood she is in, if a switch is going to flip or if she will just plain takes offense at something unexpected. I have spent years watching what and how I speak around her. The family calls her attitude the world according to, so, am I the for refusing to go by her order and sticking to mine? In my husband's house. I don't feel like I'm wrong. But have a lot of mommy guilt every time I'm there and ignore her, but I am very tired of her dictating what, how, when I speak and will not quit going to visit my husband. Edit. First I will say to those calling me names for my reaction, people in Glass House shouldn't cast stones. No one is perfect and I have always admitted I am not. To those with negative opinions on my marriage. That's okay, you do you, and I'll continue on my path. It works for us. Be aware, if it comes down to me or her, my husband will always pick me. Even if I am the issue, he will solve it by evicting her simply because I am his wife and I have limited my visits to when she is not there the best I can. I do not want my child homeless, but I will not allow her to say I can't come to my husband's house to see him. Sorry for those who think otherwise, but no one can stop a person from having anyone they want in their home. The law doesn't work that way in this situation. It's his house, she lives there. She does not have that legal right, just as he can't stop her from having her company over. But I will start being even more aware so I know I'm not escalating them unnecessarily. I will go back to biting my lip to not respond to her verbal snark sigh, which will just make her madder, louder, and more verbal. Okay, to my daughter's actions. Please know this is not a new behavior. She has been in therapy for her mental conditions. She refuses to go back. Refuses to continue medication. She refuses to ever take any blame for any of her verbal assaults. It is always the other person's fault. My reaction: yup, not cool. I did overreact and I did go back a couple of days later and apologize for the name calling. No, she did not apologize for any of it. Just sat there without a word. As usual, it's always the mom's fault. It's never a 35-year-old adult's fault. If I had just got out that door 1 minute earlier, it wouldn't have happened. But when you tell someone, fine, I'm leaving, yes, in not so polite terms, and they follow you to the door continuing to yell at you, sometimes you just come back at them. I was at the door when it turned into a verbal polo match. I will continue to look for me a therapist if nothing else. I need to continue to find ways to soften my reactions to her actions. Also to find out if I also have any of the mental conditions suggested. I'm aware of generational trauma. I had never taken that into consideration. But it definitely is an issue. Maybe I can get her help by her going to help me. Because I'm honest. I know any talk with a therapist would be biased towards me if it is just me talking. Her viewpoints might open the way for us to work on us. Or turn into a verbal match in front of the therapist. That's just as likely. I will try soon to have a calm talk with her about why she said she didn't want me over there. That will take some thinking on how to even start the conversation without her blowing up. Either we'll work it out, or it will continue with me not talking to her. Then it will be back to walking on eggshells till the next time I even have an expression she takes offense to. If it's on schedule less than 6 months, because I'm sure I'll talk to or mention someone she doesn't like, go somewhere she doesn't approve of, or have the opposite opinion of something, or just plain wear a shirt she doesn't like. Thank you for those both supporting me and the ones that call names. You have all given me things to think about and suggestions. The reason I posted on Reddit was not for attention as has been suggested. I simply wanted to talk about it with people who are not personally involved. That were not biased either way, that I would never have to meet normal everyday people, not ones with an axe to grind. Either way, autonomy does have its place. Stories number 26. I regret my past and I am terrified of someone leaking my nut. 35 now. Basically the title says it. I, 17F, have been through a rough time when it comes to self-love, and in the past until relatively not long ago I would be on and off of apps to meet guys, and now I notice that it was to receive male approval. A little bit before last summer what happened to me, but I was on mainly Snapchat and started sending pictures and videos to guys I didn't even know and talked to them in we all know what manner. At the moment I guess I thought that it was fun and that I liked it. I didn't show my face in any of them except with one guy who actually ended up being my boyfriend, LDR, but we didn't end up meeting, on calls and stuff. The relationship ended recently because of things not related to this, and he has never threatened me with leaking anything. I recently started going to therapy because I regret what I did last year and other things that happened that make me feel disgusting. But I was just thinking about it and I'm terrified because even though I won't do it anymore and I deleted all of my socials, and if I come back I most likely won't even come through these people's contact, I'm scared one of them is gonna find me somehow and leak conversations and stuff to my friends and other people, especially the guy I had the LDR with, cause the convos were on Instagram, and even though I'm blocked if he deleted them, but like I said before, he has never threatened me with doing it, and I'm also worried if some other guys I used to talk to through WhatsApp and Insta or anyone that I've spoken to where the chats don't automatically delete. I try to think to myself that if they would have wanted to leak something they would have done it already. But for some reason I keep thinking that it's going to happen if they ever see me thriving and better than ever. I also try to think that they probably won't even remember me cause TBH I don't even remember half of the guys from Snapchat, which is actually pretty stressful, but I can't get the thought now out of my head. I totally get that I was the one who did this, it was my decision and that it was wrong. I am 100% accountable. That's why I said I don't want to go back to that, but I'm still scared that someone from the past is going to try and crawl back into the present and try to make me miserable or something. Why I'm confessing this, I just want someone with a similar experience to say something or have someone try and change my perspective on this. Stories number 27. I think my father fought for me just to get back at my mom. I'm so stupid, I made a mess. Hi, I'm 15. Why my parents divorced last July after years of unhappiness. My father was rarely home, and they often argued over small things, like where my mom placed things or how long she took to get ready for a trip. I always felt he was unfair to her because she did everything at home while he only complained. During the separation, my father fought hard for custody of me and my two younger sisters, 12F and 8F, wanting us to move with him to a city 2 hours away, where his family lives. On the weekends we spent together, he put in a lot of effort to make them special. We went climbing, skiing, and to amusement parks. He did more with us in those 8 months than he had in the past 7 years. It felt like a chance to rebuild our bond, like when I was younger. When it came time to decide, I chose to live with him. It wasn't easy. My mom cried, and my 12-year-old sister still treats me coldly. But my father convinced me, promising we would do many things together. He also said he would be alone without me, and since my sisters were staying with my mom, I thought I was making the right decision. In the end, the agreement was that I would live with my dad and visit my mom 2 weekends a month, while my sisters stayed with her and visited him on alternate weekends. At least my sister and I get to spend every weekend together, but it's hard only seeing my mom 4 days a month. It's not that I'm a mommy's boy who can't live without her. She calls me every day, but it's different from actually living together. At first, my father kept his promises. We went rafting and did other activities together, but after a few months, he went back to his old ways. He's never home, always working, and I spend every afternoon with my grandparents. I like them, but only in small doses. Worst of all, my father now openly speaks badly about my mom in front of everyone. The other night, he even started saying awful things about my sisters, calling them names and saying they would turn out like my mom. I told him I didn't want to hear it, but he didn't care. I don't think he cares about me either. I feel like he only wanted me here to prove a point and make my mom unhappy. I made the wrong choice. I should have never chosen to live with him. Now, I don't know what to do. I'm at my mom's house, and I think I'll pretend to be sick just to stay here for the week. I want to tell her that I want to live with her. I just hope they will let me, and that my father won't hate me for it. Is it possible to change the custody agreement? Could my father force me to live with him? I feel like I've made a terrible mess, and I hope I won't cause trouble for my mom. Stories number 28. My F23 boyfriend, M28, had a complete switch last night when it came to sex. I'm having a lot of anxiety today. Why would he make a complete switch like that? Throw away because he knows my other account. I've been with my boyfriend for around 2 years. We have a great relationship and have always had a great sex life. He's always been respectful in bed, and when we've tried new things we always talked about it. However, last night after our Valentine's dinner I was hopping out of the shower and he just grabbed me and threw me on the bed. But not in a way that we'd ever done before. He was very aggressive. I immediately tensed up and he just kept telling to say things like, "I submit," and "I'll do anything you want," and other things. He's just never asked for anything like that. It was all really rough, it hurt, at one point I was in tears. I didn't tell him to stop. I was shocked because while we've done some things like that but never to that extent. He was smacking me and really chalking me. Covering my nose and mouth. He held me down. There were multiple times through the night he woke me up like that. I woke up this morning with some bruising and I'm sore everywhere. He's never done that. We had drank plenty of wine and I was definitely drunk and he was too, but still even on drunk nights he's never done anything like that. I told him I was heading out this morning for a workout but I just didn't want to sit next to him anymore. My anxiety is so bad I don't know why he didn't talk to me before doing all of that. Has anyone had a partner just switch like that in bed? He was perfectly normal this morning. He made breakfast for us. He asked if I wanted to go on a walk with our dogs. Like last night was no big deal. I don't know how to talk to him about it. I feel awkward and embarrassed. The way he talked to me and just touched me made me feel gross and small. I just don't know what would make him think that's okay. If I'm overreacting or if I'm being a prude. I promise I'm not kink shaming. I'm just really confused why he's never brought this up during the time I've known him and we've been dating. TLDR, my boyfriend started having really rough sex with me last night out of nowhere. I am having a lot of anxiety today. I don't know how to talk to him about it because I feel like I didn't voice that I didn't want it. He's an amazing guy and I've never ever had this feel or problem with him. He's always been respectful. How do I talk to him about it? Stories number 29. Aita for stopping my brother's proposal attempt at my wedding. Last weekend, I had my wedding, a day I had been looking forward to for a long time. Jess and I had planned everything carefully, and the day was unfolding just as I had hoped. Jess looked radiant, our guests were enjoying themselves, and everything felt perfect. Then, during the speeches, my brother unexpectedly stood up and announced that he was going to propose right then and there. I was completely surprised. I told him in no uncertain terms that the day was meant to celebrate Jess and me, and that his proposal attempt was not appropriate for the moment. He argued that this was his only chance, claiming he had been waiting for the perfect moment for a long time. While I understand he was excited and perhaps had been struggling to find the right time, I felt that my wedding was not the right place for him to have his moment. A wedding is very personal, and I had planned the day to be just about Jess and me. Later, some family members suggested that I had ruined his opportunity, and even my mother hinted that I should have let him go through with it. This has left me feeling conflicted. I do sympathize with my brother's feelings, but I also believe that certain days should remain focused on their intended celebration. After the reception, Jess and I discussed the situation. We both felt that while family matters can be complicated, I needed to protect the sanctity of my wedding day. It is hard to see someone you care about get hurt, but at the same time, I must stand by my decision to keep the day as I had planned. So, Aita for shutting him down and insisting that my wedding remain a celebration solely for Jess and me, even though it upset him and some of our family members. Stories number 30. My boyfriend went through my things while I was out of town. My boyfriend, 35M, and I, 30F, have been together almost a year, coming up now at the beginning of March. Known him for 15 years prior. He went through my things in my bathroom while I was out of town for my grandma's funeral. I left my apartment key with the intention of him checking and bringing in my mail while I was away for the 10 days. He did that for the first couple days as we were in contact the whole time. He did mention he actually stayed there to take naps. He asked if he could take the cold medicines I had BC he was sick. I told him he could use them once, but if he needed more I'd sell him money to get his own since I like to have them if I need. Now, he didn't mention he stayed there and got drunk. I get home after him picking me up from the airport and notice where I keep all my jewelry and sometimes stash, party favors, was all a mess and things were moved, not put back and completely left out. When I confronted and asked him about it he admitted it and said he was looking to see if I have any party favors stashed BC he wanted to do some. I didn't have any. But what I keep asking myself and have asked him is if I did have them, would he have done them and not asked or told me? Why didn't he just ask me if I had anything? And why didn't he not tell me he was looking for them? I'm guessing this happened about 5 days before I got home and we talked on the phone and texted every single day so he had every opportunity to tell me what and why he did what he did. I feel like he totally crossed a boundary and invaded my privacy. And that is so huge to me. He did this when he could have instead thrown my trash out that I forgot to take, washed the 5 dishes I had left in my sink, or even put on my couch cushion covers back on the cushions for when I got back home. But no, he decided to act like a fiend and rummage through my belongings. BC he said he was drunk and just wanted to get high. He was very nonchalant about it and really didn't apologize until I asked him to leave my apartment. BC of this I didn't come home to comfort after losing my grandma who was one of the most important people in my life. Didn't spend Valentine's with my boyfriend either. BC he just didn't see or realize how much it really bothered me and ultimately gave me a huge ick. I love him but I just want to know if there is a way I could move forward from something like this for us to still be together. To me, this is like secretly reading my journal. Just a huge invasion of privacy. He didn't take anything that I know of but I just don't know if I can forgive him. Is there even a chance of reconciliation for something like this? What can the both of us do to move forward and for me to be able to trust him in my space again? Stories number 31. Using my phone number for your reservation for V-Day. Not this time. I have a pretty easy Google Voice number that people tend to use to make reservations. I've gotten hundreds over the years and it's mildly annoying. There's usually a link in the confirmation text messages to cancel which I always do on the day of the reservation. This last Tuesday I got a text saying that my reservation was confirmed for today. Except I didn't make one and I don't live in that city. So I patiently waited to cancel it today. Today I got another text saying, your reservation is at 6 p.m. Click the link to cancel. Well, bud, your girl is gonna be pissed you were too lazy to use your own number because tonight's reservation just got cancelled. Happy V-Day, chump. No Mexican food dinner for you. Stories number 32. Aita for stepping away from my family after my sister brought her daughter's abuser back into their home. Let me provide some background information. I have two sisters-in-law, Rachel and Lauren. Rachel is engaged to Mark, and they have two daughters, Mia, 7, and Sophie, 5. Mark also has a son, Noah, 15, from a previous relationship. A couple of years ago, Mia was sexually abused by Noah. After the abuse was discovered, Noah was sent to live with his biological mother, and at the time, Rachel seemed to understand how serious the situation was. However, a few months ago, Noah's mother was arrested, and Rachel and Mark made the decision to bring him back into their home, meaning Mia now has to live under the same roof as the person who abused her. We understand that this was a difficult situation, and we don't pretend that there were any easy answers. However, they seem to have made this decision very quickly and without fully considering all the facts, something Rachel herself even admitted. From what we can tell, they didn't even try to explore other possible solutions for Noah's placement before deciding that the only option was to bring him back into their home. Instead of weighing the long-term risks to Mia's well-being, they acted out of urgency, without fully acknowledging how damaging this could be for her. My husband and I were horrified. Research overwhelmingly shows that this kind of situation is incredibly damaging to a child's healing, and even my therapist has said that forcing a victim to live with their abuser can have lifelong consequences. Even if Noah never re-offends, the harm has already been done. Mia is being forced to live in a constant state of stress and fear, never truly feeling safe in her own home. Studies show that when survivors are placed back in an environment with their abuser, even under supervision, it can cause severe anxiety, PTSD, depression, and difficulty forming healthy relationships. It reinforces the idea that what happened to them wasn't serious enough to warrant real protection, which can lead to self-blame or a skewed understanding of boundaries. We were even more alarmed because Mia has already started showing signs that this is affecting her. She has been acting inappropriately with other kids, including her own cousin, clear evidence that she is struggling to process her trauma. Despite this, Rachel insists that everything is being handled and that they are making sure Mia is safe. My husband and I told Rachel that we could not support this decision and that, for the well-being of Mia and our own children, we needed to distance ourselves. However, we are distancing ourselves from Rachel and Mark, not Mia and Sophie. We still love them and want to be in their lives. We have every intention of maintaining a relationship with them and have even planned to have them over for weekends at our house when possible. Our decision was never about cutting them off, it was about not pretending that this situation is okay. Since then, Rachel and my other sister-in-law, Lauren, have accused us of being cruel, making this about ourselves, and punishing Rachel for a difficult decision. They also claim that we are cutting off Mia and Sophie, even though we've made it clear that we still want a relationship with them. They recently had Sophie's birthday party and didn't invite us because they assumed we wouldn't come, yet they still blame us for not being involved. To us, this isn't about punishing Rachel, it's about not pretending that an unsafe situation is okay. Now, the family is making us out to be heartless for stepping away, saying we are the ones causing division. But from our perspective, Rachel made a choice that forced us to choose between keeping the peace or standing up for Mia, and we chose Mia. So, AITA for refusing to support this decision and distancing ourselves from the family. Edited to add, CPS was contacted when the initial abuse happened and Noah went through the court system. We were hoping for an inpatient therapy program for sexual offenders who are minors, which we have in our area, but he was only ordered to do outpatient therapy. The court system also gave their approval for Noah to move back in the home. Stories number 33. I went on a date and saw my wife calling on his car Bluetooth. 28F, went on a date with a guy, 30M. We met up, ate breakfast and hit the road because it's a long drive. Everything was going good, we were listening to music and just vibing and then he gets a phone call. He was driving so his phone was connected to the Bluetooth and I can see who was calling. The caller ID said, my wife, and my stomach dropped. We had been dating talking for 7 months and nothing he did gave any signs of him being married. He didn't pick up and let it go to voicemail. My mood instantly shifts and he asks what's wrong. I told him I saw who called and that he needed to call them back right now. He was going on about how it was his brother and I said that's BS because I saw clear as day that it said, my wife. He goes on his phone and shows me his recent calls and it says, big bro, at the time the call came through. The thing is that when the call came through initially and he let it go to voicemail, I was staring at it in disbelief and then I looked away because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It's possible that he changed the contact name really quick. I told him again to call the number and he doesn't show me, but he does call someone and I can hear a male voice on the line and we start arguing. He insists he doesn't have a wife and he doesn't know how that happened, etc. We get to the spot and I try to put it past me, but I can't let it go. If he had refused to show me his phone at all, I would have Ubered home. We end up leaving earlier than planned and he keeps trying to explain himself, but I can't forget the image of my wife calling. I told him I needed some space to think about what happened. Am I overreacting or is this a messed up prank? TLDR, I went on a date and saw my wife calling on his car Bluetooth. I confronted him, but he's denying everything and saying it was his brother calling. He apologized, but I don't believe him. Am I overreacting? Update. After my post, I listened to my gut and took a step back. I told my ex that I couldn't look at him the same after that trip and needed space. He kept reaching out with long messages declaring his love but never actually explained how my wife happened. I took Reddit's advice and did some digging. He's not on social media, but I found him on True People Search. Turns out he really isn't married, which I already suspected. I've dated enough to know when someone's hiding something big, and this didn't feel like that. So, I called and asked for the truth. He put Big Bro on the phone, who tried to claim the car had somehow saved his contacts and that's why I saw my wife calling. Total bullshit. When I called it out, BB left the call, and I got into another argument with my ex. I told him I was done and thought that was it. Wrong. He kept sending long messages, asking to see me, and would keep calling, which I ignored, until he finally said he'd tell me the truth at that point. That's all I wanted because I knew what I saw and felt like I was being gaslit, so I called. Y'all, it was a test. There's no wife. No girlfriend. No significant other. He admitted to making it up because I had already been pulling away before all this, and he wanted to see if I really cared. He was crying, saying he didn't mean for it to go this far. Honestly, I at this point felt relieved. I had started to doubt myself, and I was right to trust my instincts. But that didn't change anything. I ended things again, and, of course, he went right back to the long-winded messages, so I blocked him. It's over, I'm done. Moral of the story, always trust your gut. To answer some questions. No, I've never been to his house because I only do that if I see something going somewhere. Make of that what you will. This isn't the first time he's tested me, so I already had doubts. Yes, I've met BB before, but we weren't close. Turns out he was in on it the whole time. No, this isn't fake. TLDR, it was a test. There was no wife. I ended things. He kept chasing. I blocked him. Always trust your gut. Stories number 34. Aita for telling my childhood friend I wouldn't court him because I didn't want to have his mother as my MIL. I, 20F, have grown up with my childhood friend, 22M, who we'll call John. John left for the army when he was 18, but despite that we stayed in touch and I even visited him once or twice where he was posted. I used to love John's mother, who we'll call Amy, when I was younger, but when I was 15 I overheard her saying some mean things about me and my siblings behind our backs to John, who she knew I liked at the time. She said some nasty things like I might become a hoe because my birth mother was one. For context, me and my siblings are all adopted as well as all of Amy's kids, or my father told her I don't clean myself, which I know isn't true because my father often complained to her that I showered too often. I like feeling clean and always have, so I might have STDs. Since overhearing these things I couldn't really bring myself to remain as close to her as I was. A few weeks ago John came for a visit and his mother Amy invited my family as well as a few other friends over for dinner. I was pretty excited to see him since I hadn't seen him in over a year. During the visit I needed to take a breather, so I stepped outside to get some fresh air and calm my nerves. John joined me after a while, which was perfectly fine since it allowed me to be able to finally talk to him one-on-one. We mainly just caught up with each other and talking about random things until he asked if he could court me. It took me quite some time to reply, but I did eventually told him that I didn't want to have his mother as my MIL and I didn't want to ruin his relationship with his mother, especially since they're so close. John seemed very disappointed, but he just said okay and changed the subject. I thought that was the end of that, but apparently he told Amy that he was going to ask me out beforehand, and after my family left she had asked how it had gone. John of course answered truthfully and told her I said no, but had also told her what I had said as to why I wouldn't let him court me, and the next morning I woke up to a bunch of mean voicemails and texts from her and a few mutual friends calling me a holy for refusing to court John because I didn't want Amy as my MIL and that I was bitch for not liking Amy even though she's been nothing but kind to me, and so on and so forth. I haven't responded to any of the calls and messages, and frankly I don't know how. I didn't wish to upset anyone, but I do feel my reasons as valid. So Aita for telling my childhood friend I wouldn't court him because I didn't want his mother as my MIL. Update. Thank you all so much for all the advice. It really helped with making my decision on how to handle the situation. Before I explain what my decision was, I'm going to answer some of the questions I was asked. My family is religious and a bit old-fashioned, I suppose. My parents always told me growing up that dating was more casual and isn't always done with the intention of marriage, while courting was more formal and with the intention of marriage in the long run. John grew up the same way, so to us he was asking if he could get to know me as a potential spouse. I didn't tell anyone but my father what I overheard Amy saying about me, as at the time I didn't want to start problems and ruin relationships. My father did understand why I didn't want to be as close to Amy anymore and never forced the relationship. I might consider changing my mind if I wasn't expected to have a relationship with Amy and more than seeing her every once in a while at family gatherings, as long as I wasn't expected to speak with her. Okay, so I did send the screenshots of the messages I was getting to John. He called me and apologized, saying that he never intended for his mother to react that way and that he only told what I had said because he was angry and upset. He did say he wasn't angry at me as he understood my point of view. I did also tell him what I overheard and he didn't deny it, and also told me she often said mean things about others as well, and that apparently she would say nasty things about him and his siblings to others also. Which I figured she said nasty things about others too, but not her own kids. John told me he'd speak with his mother and would also like if we can all sit down and have a talk. I told him I'd think about it. I also sent the screenshots to the other friends that were sending me nasty messages, and most of them have been very quiet since then. My dad is appalled by their behavior as well and hasn't spoken much to any of them. Same goes for my siblings and the friends that are on my side. Stories number 35. To fool by making my coworkers think I was eating my deceased cat. A bit backstory: I've been living in an English-speaking country since I was 10, my accent is 95% gone and people who meet me generally don't realize I'm not a native speaker, but once in a while I'll mispronounce something or use a word wrong onto the foo. My cat died yesterday. She was my baby and I miss her very much, and I can barely function without randomly bursting into tears. I took off work yesterday so I could grieve and bury Ja in my yard under the bench we used to sit on and watch the birds in the summers. I thought she'd like that. My sister stopped by to console me and brought me a homemade meal. Despite it being delicious, I could barely eat and saved it for later. Today I had to go to work, so I packed the rest of the dinner for lunch. When I came in, my eyes were puffy from crying and people were asking me what happened, and I explained about my cat. During lunch I was heating up my food and a woman I work with asked me what I was having, and I responded with, the remains from yesterday. She looked disgusted, but I thought whatever, maybe she doesn't like to eat food from a previous day. A few hours later I got called into HR and was told my colleagues would prefer I didn't eat house pets in the shared dining space. WTF. I was so confused, then appalled. Why would anyone think that? I was going back to all the conversations I had that day and at no point did I say anything about eating pets. HR lady let me go, but then a few hours later killed both me and the women who watched me heat up my lunch in. That's when it came out I said I was heating up remains, when I meant leftovers, and my coworker assumed that meant I cooked my cat and was eating it due to some mental breakdown I was having. FML. I do know what both words mean and that they're not interchangeable, I just was thinking clearly. Despite my explanation, people are still giving me looks. TLDR, I misused the word remains, and now my coworkers think I ate my cat. Stories number 36. My sister squatted in my house for weeks and turned violent when I told her to leave. So, I, 28M, recently bought my first home. It's a big deal for me, and I've been working hard to make it my own. I've got a couple of siblings, but my sister, 30F, has always been the type to push boundaries. About a month ago, she came to me in tears, saying she had broken up with her boyfriend and didn't have anywhere to go. I felt bad, so I said she could stay with me for a bit, thinking it would be just a few days. Well, those few days turned into a couple of weeks, and then a few more. By the time I realized what was happening, she had practically moved in. No discussion, no asking if I was okay with it at first. I didn't mind too much, I figured it was a rough patch and wanted to help her out. But after a few weeks, things started getting really uncomfortable. She was leaving her stuff all over the house, not cleaning up after herself, and using my things without asking. She was also making no effort to move out. Every time I asked her about finding a place or making any progress, she'd give me excuses, saying she was still figuring things out or didn't have enough money. But all I saw was her getting more and more comfortable with the idea of living rent-free in my house while I was footing the bill for everything, utilities, groceries, you name it. I had enough after a month. I asked her straight up when she was planning on leaving. She brushed it off, saying she wasn't ready yet and that I should be more patient. I tried to stay calm, but it was clear she had no intention of leaving, so I told her flat out that she needed to pack up and go. That's when things went south. She snapped. I've never seen her like this before. She started yelling, calling me selfish and accusing me of being heartless for kicking her out when she was going through so much. Then, she literally shoved me when I tried to grab her suitcase and start moving her stuff toward the door. I wasn't expecting it at all. I pushed her back to get space, and that's when she slapped me across the face. I froze for a second, trying to process what just happened, and she went off again, screaming at me that I was a terrible brother and that I didn't care about her. I tried to get her to leave calmly, but she was refusing to pack, and it escalated to where I had to call our parents for help. My parents came over, and instead of backing me up, they sided with her, saying I should have been more patient and understanding. They kept telling me that family helps family, and that I shouldn't have kicked her out, especially during such a tough time, but I feel like she was taking advantage of my kindness, and I should have put my foot down sooner. Now she's telling everyone I assaulted her, even though all I did was try to stop her from causing more damage. She hasn't spoken to me since, and I don't think I can look at her the same way again. So, did I go too far with kicking her out and standing my ground, or did I have the right to defend my space after everything she did? Stories number 37. My boyfriend went through my things while I was out of town. Me 30F, him 35M. My boyfriend, 35M, and I, 30F, have been together almost a year, coming up now at the beginning of March. He went through my things in my bathroom while I was out of town for my grandma's funeral. I left my apartment key with the intention of him checking and bringing in my mail while I was away for the 10 days. He did that for the first couple days as we were in contact the whole time. He did mention he actually stayed there to take naps. He asked if he could take the cold medicines I had BC he was sick. I told him he could use them once, but if he needed more I'd sell him money to get his own since I like to have them if I need. Now, he didn't mention he stayed there and got drunk. I get home after him picking me up from the airport and notice where I keep all my jewelry and sometimes stash, party favors, was all a mess and things were moved, not put back and completely left out. When I confronted and asked him about it he admitted it and said he was looking to see if I have any party favors stashed BC he wanted to do some. I didn't have any. But what I keep asking myself and have asked him is if I did have them, would he have done them and not asked or told me? Why didn't he just ask me if I had anything, and why didn't he not tell me he was looking for them? I'm guessing this happened about 5 days before I got home and we talked on the phone and texted every single day so he had every opportunity to tell me what and why he did what he did. I feel like he totally crossed a boundary and invaded my privacy. And that is so huge to me. He did this when he could have instead thrown my trash out that I forgot to take, washed the 5 dishes I had left in my sink, or even put on my couch cushion covers back on the cushions for when I got back home. But no, he decided to act like a fiend and rummage through my belongings. BC he said he was drunk and just wanted to get high. He was very nonchalant about it and really didn't apologize until I asked him to leave my apartment. BC of this I didn't come home to comfort after losing my grandma who was one of the most important people in my life. Didn't spend Valentine's with my boyfriend either. BC he just didn't see or realize how much it really bothered me and ultimately gave me a huge ick. I love him but I just want to know if there is a way I could move forward from something like this for us to still be together. To me, this is like secretly reading my journal, just a huge invasion of privacy. He didn't take anything that I know of but I just don't know if I can forgive him. Is there even a chance of reconciliation for something like this? What can the both of us do to move forward and for me to be able to trust him in my space again? Stories number 38. Why don't Indian men consider vasectomy? Why is vasectomy so uncommon among men in India? It's a quick, 10 minutes, safe, and effective procedure, but the burden of contraception still overwhelmingly falls on women. From birth control pills with side effects to IUDs and even sterilization, it's always women who are expected to take responsibility. Even among married couples who are done having kids, women are often pressured into tubal ligation, which is more invasive than vasectomy. Meanwhile, many men refuse to even consider a simple outpatient procedure. Is it stigma? Or just plain refusal to take responsibility while enjoying the pleasure alone? Edit. For those who ask what happens if both of them don't want a procedure, women already go through pregnancy, childbirth, and often take birth control with side effects. Why shouldn't the man take responsibility for permanent contraception? My body, my choice applies to both, but when one side already bears the heavier burden, the least the other can do is step up. Stories number 39. Do I bring up the possibility of divorce or let time pass and see if things improve? I, 23F, have been married to my husband, 26M, for a few years now. We have a 4-year-old child, and recently, things have felt more strained than ever. We've always had a good relationship, but lately, I've been feeling emotionally drained. I handle most of the household responsibilities and take care of our child's needs, while my husband works full-time. It seems like when he gets home, he disengages, plays video games, or scrolls through his phone, while I continue to manage everything else. If I ask for help, he sighs or brushes it off. A few days ago, after a particularly rough evening, I snapped. I asked if he could at least help put our child to bed so I could clean up, and his response was, "Maybe we should just split up if you're so unhappy." I was shocked and asked how he saw that working, and he suddenly started backtracking, saying he didn't mean it that way, just that he was frustrated. Since then, he's been trying to act like the perfect husband, offering compliments, bringing flowers, and pretending to help, but only when I'm looking. It's hard to feel relieved when it feels like he's doing it just to avoid a real conversation. I've been feeling emotionally detached since that moment, and I'm not sure what to do. We've had a few more tense moments, and I can't shake the feeling that he might want out but is afraid to say it. I don't want to leave him, but I also don't want to stay in a relationship where it feels like he's just staying out of obligation. I don't know if I should bring up the topic of divorce, or if I should just let things play out and hope they get better once things settle down with our child. I don't want to make rash decisions, but I can't keep ignoring how I feel. What should I do next? Should I ask him directly or wait it out and see if things change? Stories number 40. Aita for refusing to give my late aunt's heirloom necklace to her daughter. My aunt passed away a few years ago, and before she died, she gave me, 27F, a beautiful antique necklace that had been in our family for generations. She told me she wanted me to have it because we were extremely close. She knew I'd treasure it, and I have ever since. Now her daughter, Lily, 29F, is getting married, and last week she asked if she could borrow the necklace as her something old. I said yes at first, because I thought it was just for the wedding day. But then she casually mentioned that she actually wanted to keep it permanently. I was confused and asked what she meant, and she said it should have been hers all along, since it belonged to her mother. She said it was unfair that I had it instead of her, and that she deserved it more because she is her daughter. I told her, I thought you just wanted to borrow it. Aunt gave this to me because she wanted me to have it. I'm not giving it away. She got upset and said my aunt was probably just being polite when she gave it to me, and that if she were still here, she would have, obviously, wanted her own daughter to have it instead. She told me I was being selfish and should do the right thing. Now my mom and a few relatives are saying I should just give it to her because it was her mom's and it would mean a lot to her on her wedding day. But to me, this isn't just some family heirloom. It was a gift meant for me. I understand why she wants it, but my aunt had her reasons for giving it to me. I don't think I should be guilted into handing it over just because Lily suddenly decided she wants it now. Stories number 41. My best friend and boyfriend hung out on Valentine's. My boyfriend, 19M, and I, 18F, have only been together for a month. We met at work and I thought he would fit perfectly in my friend group. I have been grossly sick for the past week, so I've been distancing myself physically from everyone. I even asked my boyfriend if we could do something for Valentine's after I felt better. On Valentine's night my best friend, 18F, had sent a picture of her and my boyfriend together alone having dinner in one of our group chats. I really weirded out by this, but when I asked why they were hanging out she acted like she had told me, but I swear I would have remembered something that like. There has also been times where she has said that my boyfriend is her type. Now OFC, I don't care if my boyfriend has friends that are girls and if he hangs out with them, and I'm really glad he gets along with my friends, but the situation was just so weird to me. I ended up having an argument with my boyfriend over this and he genuinely didn't see what was so weird and said nothing was going on. I don't really know what to do and I don't know if I'm overreacting. I also really don't want to ruin the friend group because I know that they would all pick her over me because they've known her longer. Stories number 42. Found out I'm pregnant on Valentine's Day. I think this is my last straw. I'm going crazy. I don't want to vent about this to anyone in my personal life, but I'm fucking scared. I'm in the middle of moving to an apartment that I was given less than 30 days notice to move to because my mother wants to move in with her less than a year boyfriend. I'm working overtime to try and afford it. I'm physically in pain every single day, and now I've fucked up and gotten pregnant. I don't want it, not want it. I am getting an abortion. I don't want opinions on that. I'm mentally ill and poor. No child should be brought into that kind of environment. But I'm still scared and so sad and lonely. I am in a relationship, but I lack parental support and peer support. I sobbed on my way to work this morning and I'm crying on my lunch break now. I feel like a fucking failure. I'm so sorry. Stories number 43. The girl I'm seeing baked me brownies, gave me multiple gifts and flowers for Valentine's Day. I didn't get her anything. Venting, advice welcome. So for context, me, 22M, and this girl, 21F, have been seeing each other for a while now. She keeps insisting on keeping things casual. I want her to be my girlfriend. We're stuck in this back and forth where she keeps ending things but we get back together. I'm not gonna go into too much detail. I've vented about our problems multiple times on my profile. If you want to read it, LMAO, please don't slander her or call her names. Anyway, a few days ago we were laying in my bed and I asked her if she wanted to do something for Valentine's Day. She looked at me like I grew a second head and said, "No, absolutely not." She proceeded to say that she thinks it's bullshit and that we're not a serious couple anyway, so why should we? I told her it's just a nice way to show the people around you that you care about them. I always get my mom and sister a nice gift. I was pretty excited to celebrate it with her because she clearly never had anyone do anything nice for her and I just really wanted to do something nice for her, you know. I was pretty upset about that, but I let it slide because I know she has commitment issues and leaves the moment things get too serious for her. Apparently she did notice how upset I was about it because today I walked in my apartment after work and she was there. She decorated the place a little bit, she baked me some brownies and cookies, they're so good, her brownies are my fave, made me a gift basket and wrote me a really nice Valentine's card while also making a nice dinner for us. I was really shocked because I never got anything like this for Valentine's Day, and it really wasn't necessary for her to go all out like that. I didn't even expect to see her today. I didn't get her anything, and she told me that was fine and that she preferred that. I still don't want to accept that though. I'm gonna get her something really nice tomorrow and I'm hoping it won't blow up in my face. She's sleeping next to me right now and I keep thinking, I just don't know how I got so lucky with such an amazing girl, but I still can't make her mine. Edit, I think you guys are being really unfair towards her. She's been through a lot and I'm not trying to justify her actions, but she's always been very clear that she doesn't want anything serious. I'm the one who fell in love with her. Just don't come on here and slander her for no reason. She truly is one of the kindest people I've ever met. Edit 2, in the Valentine's card she wrote that she felt really bad that she ruined something I looked forward to and that's why she did this for me. Stories number 44. Well, it finally happened. I vomited on my husband. We've been together for about 12 years and it finally happened. I puked on my husband during 69 session. Please tell me it isn't the biggest deal in the world and that I shouldn't feel so bad ashamed. Thankfully it was mostly liquid and I acted fast, but I feel horrible. Has it happened to you? How did you react? Edit to say thank you for the honest feedback. I never tried to think about from a man's point of view, hence the post, but wow, thank you. Also my husband laughed it off. I personally was mortified and embarrassed. He's a good man who deserves all the BJs, just maybe minus the vomit next time. Stories number 45. Aita for telling my ex to stop babying our son after he broke his arm. I am 28, have an 8-year-old son with my ex, and we don't always agree on parenting. She's very overprotective, while I believe in letting him be independent and learn from experience. Last weekend, he was playing in the backyard while I was outside with him. I got a work call and stepped inside for a few minutes to take it. I didn't think much of it since he was just running around like usual. But while I was on the phone, he decided on his own to climb a tree for the first time. He ended up slipping and falling, breaking his arm. By the time I came back out, he was on the ground crying. I immediately took him to the hospital, where the doctor set the bone and put his arm in a cast. They reassured me that he'd be fine. I called his mom as soon as I could, and she was furious. She said I was irresponsible for not watching him every second and claimed this never would have happened if I had stayed outside. When we saw each other at the hospital, she kept going on about how I should have known better and how I was being careless with his safety. I told her accidents happen, kids get hurt sometimes, and they learn from it. I also said she needed to stop babying him because she can't protect him from everything. That only made her angrier, and she's barely speaking to me now. I feel bad that he got hurt, but I don't think I was negligent. I got him help right away, and I don't think hovering over him all the time is the answer. Stories number 46. My little sister, the only family I have, no longer wants anything to do with me. Onions, light tears. I have been on my own since I was 15. Basically my dad used to beat the shit out of me. One night when I was 14 I came home from working and saw him kick my little sister because she ran in front of the TV. She hit her head hard on the TV stand and split it wide open. I snapped and I beat the shit out of him. Broken wrist, broken hand, broken teeth, broken ribs. I went into a detention center for most of a year. During that time, my dad went to prison for injuring somebody while driving under the influence for like the 4th time. My grandma on my mom's side took my little sister in. My grandma didn't have the means to take me in as well when I got out, so out I went. I always did my best to be as involved with my sister as I could. When my grandma passed away, I was in my 20s and pretty stable, so I got a place of my own and moved her in with me and supported her until she was done with high school and went off to college. Since then we've always spoken regularly on the phone and usually spent Christmas or Thanksgiving together. No perfect little family situation, but given where we came from I feel like I was doing pretty good. I have a good relationship with her husband, her little baby girl gives me kisses whenever I go over, and I'm always ready to give a helping hand when she needs me. Then 3 months ago my dad reached out to her and myself wanting to make amends. I'm not interested. My sister has begged me to forgive him, and that he has forgiven me. Forgiven me for what? I told her that there was no wiggle room, I would never speak to him again. That has now resulted in her telling me that if I couldn't forget a silly fight more than 20 years ago, that she didn't want me around her or her family again. It wasn't a silly fight, he could have killed her. I've never been able to tell her why I did it, what he used to do to me, and with her being a toddler when all this happened, I know she doesn't know. She doesn't remember a thing about the guy outside of the pictures she has seen. I still can't bring myself to tell her, and there is no way I can ever forgive him. So I guess I'm alone now. Edit, to those suggesting my niece may be at risk here, the old man is in a hospital and he isn't coming back out. He poses no threat to my niece. Stories number 47. Dating much younger men, your experiences. There's not much a man can provide me that I can't handle myself. And younger men are really interested in our age group. I'm 41, being contacted by men half my age that would be too extreme for me, but it's interesting either way. What's been your experience dating younger men just to enjoy dating? I am not looking for a long-term relationship or marriage or any of that bullshit. Men, stop messaging me. I do not want a Reddit boyfriend. I am asking my peers, I do not want your attention or opinion. Stories number 48. My girlfriend told me it's the man's job to be the one to show love in a relationship. What are your thoughts on this? A couple of weeks ago we got into an argument after she told me it's the man's job to show love and affection in a relationship, and I told her I cannot understand why she thinks it's okay to expect me to show her appreciation if she doesn't feel like she needs to show me any. She said she wants me show more appreciation on top of me giving her monthly flowers and love notes, but she will try to work on showing me appreciation as well. Fast forward to Valentine's Day and I got her a $13 card, roses, and a stuffed bear. She got me nothing. Am I wrong to feel disappointed? Stories number 49. My daughter passed away during surgery. Advice needed, education. It's been a few hard days. Dealing with the funeral home has made it worse. When we first met with one of the funeral directors, her coldness was difficult to handle. We were told to bring her clothes and other items for the private viewing. We did that. Today I get a call, a day before the viewing, from her stating that my daughter's dress was ripped up the front while she, the funeral director, was dressing her. The funeral director then proceeded to tell me that my daughter's stomach was huge as the hospital didn't sew the large gaping incision up, so it's hard to work with. I'm devastated. I did take another dress to the funeral home. But why would the funeral director say that to me? How was she embalmed with an open incision? I am terrified to see my daughter tomorrow. I want to see the little girl I know and love looking like she's sleeping. Please tell me what to expect following the funeral director's description. Stories number 50. Just found out I will be inheriting a little over $2 million. Last night my grandfather asked me to come over to his house, and he sat me down and explained his will to me. Evidently he has had some falling outs with his children and other family members and wishes to leave the entirety of his estate to me. It was a lot to take in all at once, but evidently I will be receiving $923,000 in financial assets, bonds, IRA, savings, and cash, and a litany of properties worth roughly $1,200,000. Next week he plans on taking me to meet his accountant and financial advisor to get a better understanding of his various financial holdings, so I will have more context then. The advice I'm seeking is how in the world do I navigate the family members that feel cheated. I have a good relationship with all of his direct children. They will all be left enough to not legally contest the will, but I am sure they will be hurt upset. Additionally, any financial advice would be taken into consideration, but is not really what I'm looking for.